All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. How the fuck is it going? Wonder if you can hear me okay. I think you can. All right, so what's going on? My name is, well, you know who the fuck this is. You tuned into my shit. Ha ha. Wow, I'm in a good mood today. It's my second oldest son's birthday today. Happy birthday, Owen. Yeah, baby. He turned 13. He goes into grade 8. Next year, he is currently in grade 7. This is my son with ADHD. Now, if you watch any New Age shit, you would know that people with ADHD might be anything from an indigo child to a crystal to an earth angel to a fucking holy fuck, light. Wow, a light worker, shit, a light warrior, all that shit. Cognitive issues, basically issues with the brain and shit like that. They like to say that that's one of the characteristics of somebody who is special, basically, more or less. Not that everybody isn't special, but simply put, that people with these issues may be more special. I don't know. That's the one thing I don't like about that. As much as I do like hearing stuff like that, because I have ADD, not ADHD. Hence, if I go on public like I did today, I have trouble not making random jokes about coronavirus and shit like that, which to the point where my wife's like, don't embarrass me, and she's getting all red in the face and shit like that. And once again, it's not that that isn't serious or anything like that. I'm not going out to just go out and be like, fuck coronavirus, I am better than it. It's nothing like that. Simply, we needed groceries. He's having a birthday party tonight, and obviously we can't have a party, so his little quote-unquote girlfriend is coming over, potentially my mother and sister, but even that is up in the air. All these rumors from can't even drive two people in a car at the same time to, if they track your cell phone and there's a big gathering in a house, like, I don't know. To me, and this is just me, and this is what I'm going to try to only say, I'm not going to go any deeper than this, but everything I talk about in this episode, try to relate correspondingly to coronavirus, okay? But I don't want to talk about it because I'm sick of it, A lot of guys at work that aren't necessarily awake or anything on this path have also been, my one buddy says, he comes home and he's like, okay, you got 20 minutes to tell me something new. If not, if it's just the same old shit or just how people are paranoid, you got 20 minutes, and after that, I don't want to hear any more about coronavirus. I'm like, man, that's a great idea. I'm surprised I didn't think of that, because I'm tired of hearing about this shit too. It can't do any good continuously talking about it. It can only do more harm, and that's where I stand on it. Believe what you want to believe. You can believe it's going to the end of the world. You can believe it's going to kill us all, but look at some stats. Look at the stats. No one under 9 has died still. From 10 to 19, it's 0.2%. Not even a percent. Not even a high almost percent, like 0.9 or 0.6 where you would round it up. It's 0.2 where you're more likely to round it down, okay? 0.2%, not even a percent, okay, is the first class and the second class. So basically, it shows from 0 to 9, nothing. Nobody has died. From 10 to 19, 0.2%. From 20 to 29 is 0.2%. Again, so they can actually go from 10 to 29 is 0.2%. Then after that is my age group, the 30 to 39 group. Okay, because I am 33 and I turned 34 this year. Therefore, we are 0.4%. We have doubled from the first one. So 0.4% of us, which is still under that 5, which is still something you would round down. But it is close to the 5, so you can round it to 0.5. So you want to look at it. So 0.5% of people from the age 30 to 39 are dying from quote-unquote corona, which isn't the case. It's really the fact that they are, they're actually not dying, but they're, how would I word that? They're dying from something other than corona, but corona helps weaken their immune system. So that's something that can be said about that, but not necessarily the truth or factual. Anyways, I don't want to talk about that, but point is, that's still the stats, okay? And then from there, anybody who is 40 to 50, the 40 to 49 mark, I think it was 7%, and 49 to 59, yeah, I think that's what it was. And it might have been 40 to 55. Watch the Greg Braden thing I put in the link from last time, from my last episode. I played his voice, and he went over all this, so you can listen to the episode. Fast forward to the part, but it's probably easier to just click the link, go to his video directly, and watch it, and then you'll see the graph for yourself. You'll see the site he got it from, and you can verify it, that it's actual, and see if it's changed. But I checked it yesterday or the day before, and I know this virus moves fast, but you got to understand that even though it keeps taking more lives each day, we are still making more babies each day. And these are the stats that people should be looking at. So look at who died in 2017 from January to March. How many deaths? Look at how many people died from January to March in maybe the year 2000, or maybe 93, maybe 86, okay? Just pick a bunch of random years and look at it, okay? And then try to find something that's not talking about coronavirus that says how many people have died so far this year that we have marked. And if you find the same thing I found, you will find that we haven't changed much. Yes, the higher you go in years, the more people that have died, but that's because our population is greater. And after that, what I did was I checked the ratio to people being born versus people dying. And we still have more people being born than people are dying. Now, it could be said that maybe Mother Nature is trying to even that out a bit. Maybe instead of it being 2-to-1 for people being born, she's trying to make it 2-to-1 people dying, which would help plateau our race, so to speak, and, maybe equal it out and make it, less populated by people, so we can share it with maybe the animals and the plants a little better. But nonetheless, if you go by those stats, if you put the coronavirus just on the back burner for a second and look at other stats, okay? Because you can just focus on coronavirus and listen to taking all the bad news about it, and it's overwhelming. And it's not that none of that shit isn't true. It's all fucking true, probably. But just because you're hearing just one side of it, it'd be like someone explaining everything about hell and the devil to you and not explaining how heaven works. That's what we're doing right now. We're explaining everything that can be brought to us that's bad, everything that's fucking hell-like, devil-like, demon-like, whatever. That's what we're focusing on, instead of focusing on everything that's heaven-like, angel-like, beautiful, peaceful. We're not focusing on anything like that. We're just focusing on the bad parts of this shit. There are good aspects to it, believe it or not. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. You should find them for your fucking self. But anyways, so those ratios haven't changed. And it makes you wonder, well, are we just focusing? Did we just pick one disease that may or may not? I think it's new. Like I said before, if you look at the stats, if you look at our history, coronavirus is something we pass around all the time from human to human. It is the common cold, okay? But the strand that we're talking about right now is, and this is supposed to be from experts, so take it for what it is. But I don't really believe any person who thinks they're an expert. But that's just me being, a little biased, a little skeptical, a little not trustworthy of officials. But, apparently this is mutated from animals somehow. We don't know how, but we have an idea, and we can say it's mutated, and that's why it's so harder, but we can't tell you how. Well, then, if you know it's mutated, how do you not know how? But anyways, so it's a mutated strain of the coronavirus that has attributes, let's just say, that are more dangerous than the regular common cold. So in Greg Braden's presentation, he says that we've had 2,000 or more years, let's just say 2,000, but, however long people with immune systems like ours today have been on the planet, have had time to get used to the flu. Yet we still give out a flu shot because people can still die from it. You know what I mean? But anyways, let's not get into that. But this coronavirus is pretty new. Yet, in the same presentation, and I'm not dissing Greg at all. I love that man. I love what he teaches. Just like Birch, just like fucking Frater. They all have great information, and I've learned so much from them. I'm not saying he's flawed. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just pointing out that in that same presentation, he also says that coronavirus, there's 4 strands that are the common cold, that are linked to the common cold, that maybe are the common cold. But the 3 other strands were more or less, that we know of anyways, was the SARS-CoV-2. That was the epidemic in 2012. No, that was 2002. And SARS meaning severe acute respiratory syndrome, I think. And COV, corona, virus 2. So, and the 2 means 2002. That's the year 2. That's why ours now is COVID, coronavirus. I forget what the ID stands for. But 19 is the year that it was founded in, once again. And it also is SARS. But anyway, COV2, which was the coronavirus that was in 2002. This is the virus that is passed around first, and then it mutates into COVID-19. So the COVID-19, which is the coronavirus most people are talking about, is what you have that is present when these people are dying. But you only get it. It only gets mutated in your body and becomes that once you are in the presence of or take in the germs of COV2. So COV2, the SARS from 2002, is back, okay? And that's what's causing COVID-19 for whatever reason. Now, in 2002, COV2 was a SARS epidemic, and it took out some lives. I think more than now, but I don't know, so don't quote me on that. But I mean, ours is apparently just beginning, but yet most people are saying it's going to stop as soon as the nice weather gets here. And it's like, well, then why is it so prominent in places like the United States? Because the United States, nice weather, especially down south, places like Florida and Texas, well, their weather right now is probably what we're going to get in May when they say it's going to even out, and yet they still have it. So who the fuck knows? But anyways, point is, all I'm trying to say is the COVID-19, well, I'm trying to say a lot, but COVID-19 is from COV2. But these 3 strands, the MERS, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome from 2012, which is also a coronavirus, okay? I believe anyways. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's one of the 3 strands, because, right, 4 plus 3 is 7. So there's 7 strands of coronavirus, 4 of them being the common cold, 3 are being the MERS and the COV2 SARS, and then the 19 now. That's my understanding. That's what I comprehended. I'm not saying that's fact. I'm saying that's what I comprehended. He said 7, and there's 3 that are mutated versions, and these are the 3 we know about. So technically the COV-19 is not mutated. COV2 is mutated from animals, just like the MERS one was mutated from animals, from camels. And the first, it goes from bats to camels. The other one was from bats to a dog or cat-like fucking animal that I can't remember the name of. In the 2002 version, and then somehow got to humans. And now it's from bats to snakes, apparently. I don't know. But that's just fucking rumor. Who knows that that's actual truth? But that's still COV2 coming to us. And then once it's in our body, for some reason now, with our genetics, with whatever we've been breathing in from the sky or drinking in from the water or whatever, it mutates in our body and becomes COV-19. So I'm not saying this is also factual. This is an assumption of mine, but I tend to believe that depending on the person, what they ate, what their diet is, how they breathe, whatever, you might get COVID-19 from something you personally have taken in that also many people have taken it. Maybe it's a high dose of fluoride, and people that haven't been drinking as much fluoride as other people aren't getting it. That's probably not what it is, but it's something to that effect, because not everybody gets the COVID-19 virus, but most people can get the COV2 virus, and it doesn't mutate into COVID-19. This is why I say it's important to do research, because if you do your own research, you're going to find these little facts out, and you're not just going to get these general, vague fucking things saying, everybody that comes in contact with it gets it, you got to isolate yourself for 2 weeks, and then it's gone. Everybody should isolate themselves for 2 weeks. Everybody should take this time off. I know some people can't afford it, but what you think about, you bring them out. So stop thinking that you can't afford it. Start thinking you can afford it, and, shit'll change. But point is, if you do the research, you're going to free your mind a bit and worry less, Like, I don't have to do the research because I already know what I know, but I do it to help maybe my listeners and most of all my fucking family from not worrying. But anyways, that's not what I want to talk about today. But I did want to mention that the stats of people dying are still on track as every other year. We're acting like nobody dies from January to March or December to from March the next year. We're acting like nobody dies from things, and that somehow this is so bad that people are dying. It's like, people die all the fucking time. It's a part of life. You're gonna die. We're all dying right now. I mean, we're acting like it's such a big deal that the old people are dying, and it's like, yes, we don't want our old people to die. We don't want them to die before they have to. And if this shortens their lifespan, well, then that's bad. But by the stats, it's like nothing has changed. We're still following the same patterns we follow every year. But for some reason, this year it's a big fucking deal. And I don't understand why. And I'm not trying to be one of those guys that say, hey, don't worry. I'm not that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I'm sounding like that guy, but I don't want to be that guy. I want everybody to worry to the extent that they're not worrying because they're not shutting. You don't want to shut down your immune system and go into fight or flight because then you're not even thinking right. Kind of like whenever a guy is hard or a girl is turned on, the blood goes to their parts down there, goes to my cock. Well, there's less blood in my brain, is why they say thinking with another head. Well, there's less blood in your actual head and you start thinking with your cock, basically. Well, people aren't, whenever they're in fight or flight, they're thinking with hands and feet and primal instinct. They're not thinking with their head. So they just go into fear mode and start freaking out. Don't do that. That's bad. But you should be sanitizing your hands when you're out in public. Make sure you get into the habit of not putting your hands to your face or your mouth when you're in public. Even if you have gloves on, take the glove off, put your hand in your eye. It's like, no, don't do that. But, take all the precautions necessary and keep getting informed with new ways to fight against it. Like, fuck being so scared of it. Go get some fucking vitamin C. Go get some fucking zinc, and start taking those bitches in. Start using, I put on my last page, 15 herbs that have antiviral fucking properties. Take those in, go buy the plants and plant them. And don't just do it now for the virus, you hypocrite. Do it all year long. Like virus is only a big deal when there's an epidemic. No, viruses can always take you out. Viruses are a communication system within our body. If you really want to go in depth and be like, well, what the fuck's the point of viruses? What the fuck's the point of viruses? Well, viruses tell the cells how to communicate. When you get cancer, what happens is there's a cancer cell that starts growing in your body. And it's viruses that communicate where the tumor will grow after that. So the cancer initial cells are not even necessarily where the fucking tumor is going to grow. So you can have colon cancer or a brain tumor that's cancerous. But the cancer cells can start growing somewhere else, within your arm, within your fucking leg, within your intestines. It doesn't matter. But the viruses are a communication system within your body that will tell where the cancer tumor has to grow. And it's pretty fucking important to know that. So viruses are a means of communication. So who knows? Maybe our scientists, our lab people are doing experiments with viruses, trying to figure out how to communicate to those viruses to not tell the part of the body to get cancer and to tell the other part of the body where the cancer cell's initially growing to fix itself. And maybe through that, we fucked around too much. And this is the backlash from that. Now we have viruses going widespread and killing people. No. Get back in there. Back up. Sorry, my dog's trying to get out and there's a dog walking by. I don't want some corona dog issues. Ha! But anyways, that's enough of that now. Because I can go on and on. I can keep shooting facts at you and blow your fucking mind with how exaggerated this is getting. But once again, I think it serves a purpose. I think it's going to wake people up. I really do. I think people are going to wake up. I think there's going to be more people wake up from this than there is people scared right now. But that being said, it's not going to work on everybody. And, to come into the light, you have to once go through the darkness. I already said this. And by doing that, it really helps. It really speeds up the process, because when you're in a good place, you can be all love and light all day long, and it's not hard. But when you're in a dark place, when things are tough, when you're thinking everything's in crisis and you're pretty in a bad place, you're fucking depressed, or you think you're dying, or you have a disease, well, that's where you can really find enlightenment. I know it's fucked up to say, but it's the goddamn truth. And right now there's more darkness on this planet than ever. Normally when the crises happen, we as people come together and help each other out. And with this type of outbreak, we're unable to come together. We have to stay at home. And I get it. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it sucks. Because now you don't get to see the great side of humanity. That, when 9/11 happened, whether or not it was real or fake or staged or planned or did by our government intentionally or not intentionally, regardless, the people that banded together and helped one another, like whenever tsunamis happen, whenever hurricanes happen, people get together and help each other out. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. Firefighters, like with military people, even police officers, rather help. They rather be helping people during crisis and building houses and things like that, like especially the military. They rather do that than go and fight no fucking war. You know, if I had it my way, I would create a group of people, a band of brothers and sisters, whoever, that would be just that, would be for crisis like this, to go around and help out. Volunteer, not volunteer, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But I would be in that group, lead that group, whatever. I would want to be part of that, where you go around different places and help the fuck out. And you can say, well, that's what our donation things are. That's where, you know, United Way and things are like that. Maybe, I don't know. I don't see it, but, you know, there probably is things like that. But, you know, I want to be part of one. Anyways, enough about Corona. My Corona. If you're wondering, that's a song called My Sharona. If you guys are young, because I know there's some people that are young listening to me, more impressionable, but that's not a bad thing, guys. That's a good fucking thing. That means you get shit in your subconscious now, you're good to go. And just so we're clear, subconscious and unconscious are used interchangeably. But for me, now sometimes I say unconscious instead of subconscious. Sometimes I say obviously vice versa, the opposite. But for me, when you're doing some sleep programming, when you're programming your mind at nighttime, when you put something in your mind as a child, while you're sleeping, and you're trying to get something deep into your subconscious, okay? You are programming your mind unconsciously because you're not using your conscious mind anymore. So now you are on the unconscious. It's still you, and consciously you made that tape, and you are putting it in your subconscious mind, because this is where the mind is. It is below the conscious mind. It is underneath the surface, like occult is hidden, but this is the hidden mind. That's why occultism has to do with your subconscious mind. Now, occultism isn't magic, and magic isn't only occultism, but it's one of those things that is part of it, just like everything else. Like I've said before, and I'll maybe talk about that later when I actually read to you what I wrote. But one of the things I wrote as a side note, besides hermetic principles and how hermetic principles are used in magic, and if your magic follows the line of the hermetic principles, then you're more likely to manifest stuff. And I tell you exactly how your statement of intent should be referenced to the 7 hermetic principles. And that's what I wrote down, so I'm going to wait till I look at that and then tell you exactly what I mean by that. But before that, I just want to get the distinction out of the way. Now, I'm not saying this is how it is. I'm not saying this is the difference, because I think people just use unconscious mind and subconscious mind. They also use conscious. People are becoming more conscious awareness and shit like that. And, you know, that's all great. But technically, being conscious is using your conscious mind. And if you're consciously knowing that your subconscious rules your life, then you're more conscious than most fucking people. Oh, my gosh. But all that's to say, if you are doing sleep programming, if you are trying to get something in your subconscious mind when you are sleeping, and you're using your present state that is unconscious, okay? You're unconsciously putting that in your mind, because it's your subconscious that is ruling your body when you're sleeping. Well, to me, the word unconscious, I like to use it in the sense of unconsciously, you are listening to that tape. So you are still you, but you are the unconscious version of you. Kind of like people in fight or flight are in a sense, because your ego is part of your conscious mind, most people like to say. But when you go to fight or flight and the blood is in your hands and your feet, it is a primal, instinctive thing that you are a program that you're playing out, which has been put into your subconscious, and unconsciously you're playing that out. It's very hard to speak to someone who is unconscious, which is like a baby. If you're trying to get something into a baby, they're unconsciously running around. They are all subconscious mind, is something I like to say, and I say often, but technically they are unconscious right now. And not in the sense of you are unconscious when you're sleeping or whenever you're knocked the fuck out, but that's kind of what I mean. So just going forward, I'm going to refer to it that as such. So unconsciously programming your mind is basically doing stuff like consciously, or you consciously make a tape of the program you want to insert, and by saying, like, I remove this program and I insert this program. You listen to that over and over and over again, like affirmations, because when you're unconscious, you can't use feelings. But this is unconscious programming, okay? Because it works. Whatever you listen to is going to get into your mind. Now, you want a program like that, you're going to have to use repetition. This is how you do unconscious magic. Or when you're in your dreams, if you can take control of that, that's like being conscious in an unconscious state, technically. And you can also do magic and manifest things like that as well. But anyway, so that's something I wanted to mention. So doing unconscious work to me is whenever you play a tape recorder, whenever you're going to sleep. Also, if you go to sleep with a TV on, YouTube on, and you haven't set a specific playlist. Now, setting a specific playlist with YouTube doesn't always get you the audiobooks that you want. Sorry, I'm fucked up. I'm driving. There's too many people out, women out. It's like, I'm not one to stick to the coronavirus thing either, but there's a lot of people walking around. I mean, I guess that's not bad. They're all by themselves. They're just walking to and from places. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, I guess. A lot of girls out, I mean, not wearing shorts or skirts yet, but Jesus. It's hard for a man to concentrate. Even a married man who's faithful, but it's still hard to concentrate. Anyways, when you make a playlist, at least what's coming on, the content coming on is what you programmed and what you want to listen to, is what you are choosing to listen to. However, there might be ads that play in between there, and, getting an ad that says, hey, working for make money, if you hear that over and over again, it might not be a great thing. If you have a job, it might, unconsciously program you while you're trying to program something else in your mind. So just be aware and be careful of that, okay? You can also do things to, make sure that those things don't have an effect on you. But that's probably one of the best ways to continue your programming and program stuff into you, on top of doing sigils and your own recorders and all that. I really condone doing stuff with your own voice in a recorder type manner and recording stuff. I really think that's probably your best fucking bet, to be completely honest. But if you don't know what to do right away, or you really want to learn the Kabbalion, and you can't buy the book and you can't print it up, and you don't have the an app to put the PDF on, and even when you do that, if you fall asleep and then there's a blank page and it stops, some of the problems I have, it's almost like you need to set a fucking timer or a separate app to fucking get it to keep playing or change the page. And I think that's the difference with PDF versus the, I don't know, EBUB, whatever the fuck that is, the ebook, but EPUB, I think it is, EBUB or EBUP, I don't know. Anyways, there's a different format like that, and those generally keep going even when there's a blank page. So if you have the option between the two, and maybe it's only the PDF that will play to you and the other one won't read to you. Generally, though, those EBUB ones, you don't have them. You have PDFs more than that version. However, that version, if you can get it, generally changes the page for you. So if I have the option between the two, I will download that EBUB first, check it. If it plays and works, then I keep that one only versus using the fucking other one. But that's just one of my observations with all the book learning I've done while asleep. Unconscious reading is a great way to learn, especially if you can manage to fall asleep, with your arms crossed and shit like that. But in my experience, how you consciously cross your arms to get both sides of your mind to work. Well, I've noticed recently, having heard that information again, and understanding it on a whole new level, I realize that when I fall asleep crossed-armed or cross-legged, I have more lucid, conscious dreams if I have any. Now, I think I'm less likely to have dreams that way. But for some reason, if I do have a dream, it's more conscious and it's more easy to take over my dream. Now, for the most part now, when I take over my dreams, I get in dream time, mind you, but I only have about 5 minutes before I wake up. Kind of like Inception, when the dude realizes his dream starts to collapse. Well, but because he's sedated, it takes a while for him to wake up or whatever the case is. But the point is, whenever you realize that you are consciously almost able to control your dream, it's like the body system's like, no, you're not supposed to do this. whether that's a program that we were told to not learn, and it's somewhere way deep inside of us somehow, I don't know, but there is something to that. And every time you start realizing that you are awake in your dreams, it generally wants to kick off. That's been my experience. Not always the case whenever you're listening to people talking about this, but it's definitely been my experience. Now, take that for what it is. Don't really know what the fuck it is, but do what you want with that. But anyways, unconscious learning is super, uber, and fucking important, and it should be done. It should be tried, and you should do your best to get it to work for you. Like honestly, it's the easiest way to learn shit. Like I said, you're not gonna wake up with knowledge that you just like know and remember, but you will eventually at some point figure it out. You know, you will remember it. You'll figure it out. It'll be there. It'll be with you. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to see, but I don't think Buddy's here anymore. Anyways. Sorry about that. Sorry about all that dead air. A friend of mine has to sign in every Friday to the cop shop, so I wanted to make sure. It's not really my place to judge or tell people what to do, but he's on a good track right now, so I like to make sure he does it. So I realized it was Friday, so I was coming down to see if he has done that or not. So anyways, that's irrelevant right now. Anyway, so yeah, unconscious learning. Give it a shot. Give it a go. Give it a shot. Try. To me, that's what unconscious means, and that's how I use the word lately. You can use it to describe anybody who is not using their subconscious. They are unconsciously running programs, and it's determined their life, and they don't have any control at all. Versus someone doing magic is trying to control at least a part of their life. And understand that's a good distinction to make, because you do not want to control all of your life, okay? So here's something I learned from Alan Watts, and I might put a link in here. I might even play some of it, who knows. But is it done to you, or do you do it? Is one of his, I think it was a CD that was made by him a long time ago. Alan Watts is a philosopher. I play on here from time to time. Anyways, he talks about how most people think the sun just rises because it's 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, whatever time, depending on daylight savings, and you know, the moon just comes up, and this is all just done, and we have no choice over it, just like in life. If we get sick, if something happens, it's been put in the cards to happen, and we have no choice in the matter of in the matter of it, so to speak. And it's bullshit. It's not really the case. Unconsciously, we know from a young age that the sun comes up and the moon goes down, and it just puts a whole new light and spin on people trying to do and put out fear-based media telling you the world is going to end. Because if you don't think the sun's going to come up one morning, and you got enough people to believe that the sun was going to come up one morning, then it fucking might not come up one morning. So, but anyways, what he says in this, and what it's taught me, is that you don't need to control everything. And if you trust the universe and you trust in your body to do things, right? If you don't go around thinking you're sick, thinking you're probably going to get sick, saying you're going to get sick, then there's a better chance that if you just trust your body to run optimally and work well, that it will work well and you won't get sick. Because people that try to control things generally don't have any control. And, by just trying to control everything and have power, they lose more power. Because anytime you try to, whether it's people, whether it's system, whether it's money, whatever it is, when you try to control something, you lose control over it, so to speak. But by trusting and delegating, most people that have success, good supervisors and bosses, they delegate. They trust their employees, they trust the people they're working with to do good, to do well for them, to get them the results they need. And likewise, what ends up happening is they end up succeeding. And by trusting and giving up their power, they receive more power. It's like a catch-22 almost. It's a good thing to know. It's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to try to manifest and work out. But it's a bad thing if you don't know about it and you're trying to control shit. But anyways, that's just a little food for thought. So where I'm trying to go with this, so I keep getting sidetracked because I'm half looking and half driving and half talking. You know, my attention is split 3 ways. And God, my car tells me when there's cars closer, my blind spot and shit like that. It beeps at me, which is a good thing in a sense. But anyways, if you are healthy or you perceive you're healthy and you don't have any health issues, well, why would you do healing magic? Why would you try to heal your body if there's nothing wrong with you? By assuming there's something wrong with you that you need to heal something, you could create an issue. Therefore, your best bet is to not fuck with it. Trust your body to heal itself. Trust your body that your organs are going to keep replenishing, your cells are going to keep renewing themselves and keep making it new. Holy fuck, those pants are tight. Everything is just going to keep working out regardless. That's what you want to do. That's how you want to do this. That's how you want it to work out for you. If you trust in your body to do its normal processes on its own, if you give your power away to your body, to your unconscious or subconscious mind, then just by doing that, you will have results. Your body will do what's good for you. And I mean, if you're unhealthy, well, what the hell else do you have to lose? You can curse God for doing that to you, which basically, in my experience, you'd be cursing yourself. Because we are in control. We are responsible for what happens to us. So if you eat shitty food all the fucking time and then you got sick, it's like, well, no fucking wonder. You don't drink enough water or even put electrolytes in your body, then no wonder. You don't breathe right or do exercise, well, no fucking wonder. And you're going to curse God for your shitty hand, which you're just cursing the energies within yourself. You expect that to help out? No. Give in and say, you know what? I shouldn't have fucked around. I shouldn't have put garbage in you. I'm going to do research. I'm going to figure out what I need to put in me, what I should have been putting in me this whole time. And, you know, by this act, you are alone going to tell your body that you love it and that you care for it and that, you know, you're going to start the process of healing. Just like if you get something that thinks you're going to reverse your illness, there's a good chance you may reverse your illness just by doing whatever it is that you're doing. It's just going to happen. It's the whole placebo effect thing. If you believe in something enough, you get that program to run in you that there is a cure for whatever you got. That's the problem with cancer. Most people don't believe cancer has a cure. And any disease that people don't think has a cure, well, they just shut their mind off and believe nothing can be done. But if you could trick your mind into believing that there's a fucking cure for whatever the fuck you got, then you're laughing because you figured out the fucking game. And that, to me, is the fucking game. That is how we play this game. That is the best and only way to play this game. In my opinion, that would be the only way and the best way to play this game. By putting in the program that you want to play out. By doing the things you want to play out. By having the things you want to play out happen to you. That's how you get the healing. That's how the magic works. You know, it's just that. Sorry, I'm looking again, so I'm kind of blabbering and I don't even know what I was saying. That was just unconscious talking there again. But point is, if you give up power in any area of your life and you trust either something or a system or your body or whatever, that it's going to work out for you. You know, and that doesn't mean to do it ignorantly and just ignorantly give up and just say, fuck it, what's the point? Well, that's not really giving up your power. That's affirming that nothing good can happen and so it won't happen. But what I'm saying is assuming that the best will happen, and by doing that, it has no choice but to happen because you're trusting it to do what it was made to do, and your mind is no longer getting in the way and telling it to do something of either opposite or harmful to you. See, from the TV to our parents to our teachers to everything, from when we're born, you know, we're told that, you know, be healthy and do whatever, but there's still a chance you might die from getting hit by a bus or getting a disease, and that's wrong. It's not right at all. It's not correct. Okay? Yes, there is that variable of chance. Yes, there is harm in some people that just want to watch the world burn. If you come in contact with one of those persons, they might just pick you to do something terrible to. Yes, absolutely. But there's also the chance that if you get rid of that programming and you put in the new programming, which is actually the old programming, that everything will fucking work out, that your body regenerates your organs, therefore there's no reason for your organs to die. And because you know that, now you're only going to put in high electrolytes, high alkaline water. You're going to breathe through your nose consciously as much as you possibly can, to the point where you're going to do it unconsciously, because, you know, unless you only sleep 4 hours for the rest of your life, now you've probably spent most of your life asleep already, because the majority of your life you've been sleeping, you know, 8 hours a night. You know, maybe not the majority, but a good amount. So, point is, it's a good way to go. Sorry, I think I see my buddy, but I'm not sure. It might not be him. It might be him. No, it's not him. Shit. All right. Well, I give up. I didn't find him. Simple as that. Anyways, point is, if you consciously try to do things that are going to change your outcome. Fuck, I'm fucking up everything I'm saying because I'm still looking. Sorry, everybody. I don't mean to be... I'm going to go home and park and finish this bitch off. But you might get some more incoherent babbling while I do that. But if you expect and program your body to heal itself on its own, right? Saying that you understand that your body is a healing machine, it's a regenerating machine. It knows what to do all by itself. That you're removing all old programming that has been put into you that, you know, don't say wasn't, but that wasn't something you wanted in there in the first place. If you manage to do all that, okay, and then you input only good breathing, good alkaline water, you know, only good shit in your body that's gonna help you live. You're gonna eat and drink and breathe and move your body to live, not live to eat and drink and move your body. You know what I mean? You're gonna go the opposite way of that we've been programmed and taught to do. You know, just do what you want, fuck who you want, eat what you want, drink what you want, get high, do whatever. Don't believe in God or any kind of spiritual whatever. Don't even try being spiritual or doing anything spiritual, because it's not going to matter in the end anyways. Well, if you have that programming, well, no wonder you're going to fucking self-implode or fucking run your fucking life into the ground. I mean, you're telling your body that it's not important, that it can't do anything good, that it can't heal itself. And after a while, it's going to say, all right, well, clearly this guy knows what it's doing, so he wants to be in control, so fuck it, let's let him be in control. Let's let him think he can do what he wants to fucking do, and, you know, see if he can heal himself whenever he gets sick. Because, you know, he keeps putting garbage in us, we're trying to get rid of it, and we're full of carbon dioxide because he doesn't even fucking drink, he doesn't even breathe well. Our cells are weak because we don't have enough alkaline and electricity in us. We got no energy to recharge on the battery packs that get the cells stronger. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, like I said last episode, go see Jerry Tennant. But, you know, and, you know, he's not doing anything, so why should we be trying our hardest to maintain our health when... All right, so I don't know if I played the Alan Watts thing at this very point in time or not during the episode. I understand this is like at least 4 days of recordings all at once, but right now I'm going to try to get through, and I always have a hard time reading shit that I wrote, but I'm going to try to get through what I wrote while my wife is inside faxing papers to God knows who for God knows what, but you know, that's what's going on right now. So I'm going to try to read this to you, or at least get some of it done now and the rest done later. I always end up fucking up and having to, you know, explain myself over and over again. And fuck, did I take the wrong fucking book with me? That would really suck if I did. There's a good chance I did, but who knows? Let me figure it out. There. Sorry, everybody. This is gonna be a really bad dead air fucking episode, to be honest. I'm gonna have a whole lot of bullshit on here. But you know, what are you gonna do? That's just the way it goes sometimes. So, the night before last night, Thursday night, I was trying to sleep, and I couldn't sleep, and I got up and I started writing, and this is what I ended up writing, what I'm about to read to you, as soon as I can find it. It's all in pencil. Sorry. Got a lot of shit in this book. Alright, So I got it here. I got a dude watching me, but we'll see if that's going to bug me or not. Most people tend to think I'm just talking on the phone anyway, so... But I'll shut the window. All right. All right, so... Fucking dead air. It's going to be brutal. Sorry, guys. All right, let's start. So... This has to do, before I start, about the law of attraction, magic, and hermetic principles. Basically, what I was trying to do was identify and I guess link or show the difference between what the law of attraction was kind of the fucking point of all this. But from there, I actually end up, like I said, or at least I started breaking down how to make your magic, your statement of intent, follow the 7 hermetic principles, and how I interpret the hermetic principles and how I integrate them within my statement of intent, how I conceive how the magic is done, and what do I do, the steps I take to make sure I use all 7 hermetic principles. But anyways, I'll just start where I start. Law of attraction was a short version of how magic may work, using a version or half of one hermetic principle. But the hermetic principles are mentalism, the law of mentalism, correspondence, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender, and vibration. Magic, manifestation, programming, healing, transformation, evolution follows these laws. So the law of attraction was never a fully formed It was never a fully formed actual procedure, I guess. But it helped bring awareness to magic, New Age, spirituality, and because it was a variant, albeit an incomplete variant, but nonetheless a variant of a hermetic principle, it carried a little bit of weight and kind of rang to people on a certain level. All right, so once again, like I've said many times, magic is a broad term, at least for me anyways, that isn't just the hermetic principles, but the hermetic principles are a part of magic, such as, astrology, hypnosis, NLP, even, ritual is a part of magic. Like ritual magic is a part of magic, but it's not all that magic consists of. Once again, I said this like many times, and the reason that to me the reason this is the case to me anyways, is that magic is what everyone is doing, either attempting to do on purpose, like I am, or is being done by others through programs and repetition through your subconscious mind that we perform unconsciously. So the aspects of magic I just named, right? Like the astrology, the ritual magic, the hermetic principles, so on, are tools or languages, or at least maybe not languages, but language systems to perform or try to steer our magic. And what I mean by that is because we've said before that symbolism is the language of the subconscious mind. So that's why when I wrote language, but then like, wait a minute, it's not really a language. Like astrology is a helpful tool, maybe even a language system, because it's symbols that tell you, because if you look at your astrology chart, okay, you're going to have words associated with where they are, but basically you got a circle with all the symbols of the planets, and you have it divided up into 12, basically all symbols, right? So it's part of the language system that the subconscious mind uses. Whenever your subconscious mind sees that, at the same time you're consciously seeing it, it's going to have an effect on you, a profound effect, even if you don't even recognize it. But point is, this is all part of the magic, but it doesn't make the magic that people are doing unconsciously all the time through programs that were put into them when they were younger any less, important or any less potent. Basically, in a sense, what we try to do is we're trying to change that unconscious programming, is kind of a way that might be helpful for you to look at And what I mean by that is simply that we are performing magic. We are trying to take over not take over our life, but we're trying to get a specific reaction, a specific outcome to happen. So whether that's manifesting more money, finding a lover, losing weight, buying a house, whatever the case is, we're trying to speed up that process instead of just, depending on our programming, that might be put into our mind, that may not be put into our mind. We might have to, through repetition, say it over and over again. We're going to buy a house one day. We're going to buy a house one day. And then, it'll be so. But if it's not in our mind, in our programming, then it's technically not in the cards. It's not part of our fate. So through magic, what we do is we insert stuff into our subconscious mind so that we unconsciously play it out. So you're not necessarily in control of your subconscious mind. You're not necessarily making these things happen through like your conscious mind, right? You consciously do a ritual, a sigil, or you play a recorder when you go to bed. But when it manifests, you're still unconscious of it. You don't really know what all transpired, what all took place for it to work out. But in a sense, this is going to play into what I say later, or what I wrote down later, but in a sense, and it's kind of what I already said earlier, you're trusting your mind, you're trusting your brain, you're trusting your body, you're trusting the computer system that is you, okay? And I say computer system, but it's more like a biological, more advanced system, because the computer systems that we have today are basically what our minds are and can do. And they're not as advanced as we are. But over time, we have lost the ability to do this because of the simple fact that no one thinks this is possible. It's put in movies, it's dramatized, it's exaggerated, and it's a pipe dream. It's non-fiction, basically, is what is the program running in everybody. And that, if you're lucky, you'll get everything you want. If you're not lucky, you won't get shit. So when you start the initiation process, when you start magic, when you start this, what you're doing is you're removing that program that says all this shit is bullshit, and you're putting in that I believe that our bodies are way more powerful than most people give credit to. And I am trusting my body to do what it is capable of doing. So, and that's where your astrology chart once again plays in, because you may be clairvoyant, but you may not have those skills. But everybody has the ability to be able to manifest what they want, to be able to put instructions into their subconscious mind and have that play out. Whether or not you're an artist or really good at drawing, it doesn't matter. You can make sigils out of letters that are fucking ugly as fucked and still get something to play out in your life. So that's just a way to show you where your talents are. So you might be the type of person that could be like me, lay down on the couch and visualize your manifestation happening. Visualize you going to your altar to perform the magic and all that. Maybe not even physically go to your altar at all anymore. Or you might have to do it in the conscious setting all the time and get yourself into a trance while you're standing up at your altar, basically. Or, a variant of that. Point is, doesn't matter what your chart tells you, where you're strong, where you're weak at. I mean, it matters, but when it comes to being able to insert beliefs or insert programming or insert what you want to manifest into your subconscious mind, everybody has that ability. Everybody can do that. Everybody can make a sigil. Everybody can write on a candle. Everybody can put a tape recorder on at night and lay down to it. Everybody can go have hypnosis triggers put in them. Everybody can try to learn and do that themselves. So, but depending on where your interests are, you may not be interested in any of this, therefore you won't do any of it. But all that is just to say that it plays into the same thing once again that, that Alan Watts thing is saying, is the way to have power is to trust in your body, trust in the universe, trust in your mind and your cells to heal and your subconscious to manifest what you insert into it. See, the problem is that your body is manifesting what's inserted into it, but you're not inserting shit into it. Other shit has been inserted into you and it's playing that out. Therefore, it's very hard for you to know or even try to believe this until you do it for yourself. But once you do it for yourself, there's goddamn no way you're ever going to go back, because it's profound. And this is where you start going down the track like, well, okay, well, is there really a God or not? And, I'm likely to tell you yes and no, because there's not a God like as in painted in the Bible, but there is something way higher than us. There's many things I think higher than us in some kind of hierarchy. And, the one that's the all of the all of the Kabbalion, the way I try to think of it is that is something that is probably what created everything. But in the same sense, the hierarchy, the beings above us, might be the all, and there might be an all above them. So there's no way to know. So there's really no reason to ponder on that. But what we can know is that whatever created us gave us the ability to do this. Therefore, it wants us to do this. Therefore, we're honoring and even respecting our Creator by taking up magic and trying to manifest and using our body the way it's supposed to, and not just taking the word of other people that this is not true and not real. And, what's the worst that can happen? You try it, it doesn't work, you give up, you go back to God, you go back to Jesus. But, if you do it, then it works, well then great. And it doesn't mean you have to give up believing in God or Jesus. That's all up to the practitioner. You can insert any beliefs you want. The only problem with having the Christian view, if it's not one you've made up yourself and inserted yourself, then you might have a lot of the bullshit that comes along with it. Like, you're not allowed to have lots of money, and you're not allowed to be a witch, and shit like that. You don't want those things to be fucking it up, because you don't know how deep the program goes. And that's just to say that somebody who was born, 80 years ago, 60 years ago, is different than someone who was born 10 years ago. Even if they both go to Catholic school, they're going to learn two different things. What my mom learned in school, what my dad learned in school, and what I learned in school are three different views, and we all went to Catholic schools. But anyways, I'm going to keep going. But that was all just to say, and I'm going to keep making this point, but you put something consciously. You use your conscious mind to protect your subconscious so that you no longer are putting in or receiving programs that play out in your life. Like falling asleep to the TV, waking up and wanting basically the commercial that played the most last night over and over again. So you protect your mind by shutting that crap off, doing research, figuring out how this shit's put in you. This way you know what not to do or what to do to program yourself. And then from there, you're able to put in your own belief systems and programs. And that's what I mean by you can believe whatever you want. You can invent a God that gives you whatever the fuck you want for manifestations, okay? You can make it elaborate or simple, but you can create one that'll give you shit, and then put that in your mind and it'll be done. So just keep that in mind as I keep going. But what we're trying to do in magic is we basically are letting go, because a lot of people can listen to the Alan Watts thing that I'm going to play and hear what he says about occultists and Eastern people, and everybody thinks they're going to be crazy and clairvoyant and, this and that, and have all this discipline, and they're going to see some crazy shit, but then they go there and they're not overwhelmed whatsoever. And they find out that most occultists realize that if they keep going down the path of realizing that they're God and they manifest what they want, well, they get to a certain point where, they go down this path where it's all ego-driven and it's really not occultism at all. But if you take, anyways, the point is, if you take what he says the wrong way, it can almost seem like he's saying that there's nothing in this. But it's not what he's saying at all, because he truly does say that we have the power to do this, because what he ends up saying, and what I've learned, is that the more you let go of trying to control circumstance, especially the ones you cannot control but you're trying to, the more you let go of that idea that you need to control everything, the more power you actually get. So you stop telling your body that it's trash and it's no good for nothing and can't do this magic manifestation stuff. You stop telling your body that, and you start telling it that you believe in it. You know it was meant for better things. You know its capability. You know that it's been making your life as you've been going along so far, and that you don't blame it for what it has been manifesting to you. And even more so than that, you say you're sorry for not fucking doing this sooner. And then you start doing it. And then, just by doing that, you're letting go, you're rechanging the programming that your body can't do these things, and you're allowing it to do what it was made to do once again. And then now all you have to do is enter the commands, and then it will work through you unconsciously by you putting something into your subconscious. So that's what I mean by all this. It's a little complicated, but what I'm saying is you're not actually performing the magic. when people say performing ritual, you're performing a ritual and you're affecting the magic that your mind controls, your mind does. It depends on what your definition of magic is. And I'm not going to tell you yours is wrong, but magic is the, what Crowley said is a version of it, but it's more like everybody's performing magic whether they know it or not. So therefore, magic is our subconscious mind creating a reality for us. Therefore, you can either do it on purpose, consciously put stuff in your subconscious, and then it will work out unconsciously, or you can allow other things into your subconscious, or the things you've already received into your subconscious to be played out unconsciously. Either way, they're being played out unconsciously. You're not conscious of how they work out. You're not the one controlling and making the things happen for it to happen. All you're doing is steering where you want it to go, but someone else's foot is on the pedal and the brake, or whatever, however you want to think of that metaphor. So you're steering it. You're telling, okay, well, instead of going into this downward spiral direction, we're going to go to this up, wealthy, financially healthy direction. And it still keeps doing what it was doing before. Unconsciously, these things keep playing out to you. And whereas before, unconsciously, they were playing out, but you had no idea that it was actually you doing it. You kind of understand what I'm trying to say now, I hope. That you still give up, you're still not in control of how the magic plays out, but you are now in control of what is going to happen. So instead of having causes and then, you receiving the effect, because, something was put into you, that's the cause, and then you get a certain effect. Well, now you are the one putting in the cause, okay? This is what I want to happen. So by putting that in, then your subconscious works, and then unconsciously you manifest that thing you wanted. So yeah, it's happening either way is what I'm trying to say, but you've given up the power, you know what I mean? You're not trying to be all powerful. You're not trying to be this magician who just points a wand and things just happen for you. You're still doing it the same way you were doing it before, just you know how to manipulate or use your mind properly. Anyways, I think I've made that as clear as I possibly can. So I found, it wasn't a coincidence, I found New Age, Law of Attraction, more than 3 years ago. And I learned that I can draw something to myself through visualization, writing, and emotion. Now that wasn't a complete system of language to the subconscious mind, but it was enough to get 10 grand. Enough to get 10 grand 4 times, might I add. Car loan, mortgage, which were like more than a year apart. And I had to lose my job. Because of this, I know I found a truth, but incomplete. But while I was discovering ceremonial magic and variant traditions of witchcraft, and still following specific New Age mentors, like Greg Braden, that I intuitively knew, or still had something to offer. I ironed out all the kinks and came up with ceremonial witchcraft, basically, which is my hodgepodge of, bunch of different systems and, how I insert shit into my mind and work it out, and how I explain what happens, basically, more or less in a small way, and, teach the basic things you need to have an understanding of to do it, perform it correctly. And by the way, if anybody wants to say, if someone ever asks them, well, if you don't believe in God, you're not Christian, what are you? Well, I practice ceremonial witchcraft. What the fuck is that? Well, go look up ceremonial witchcraft. You'll get this one crazy fucker, Corey, who babbles on incoherently and goes from topic to topic. But if you follow those topics, sometimes he gives us some pretty good information. Anyways, okay. But, being creative and coming up with your own name is probably your best bet. But anyways, that's irrelevant. So during the past 3 years, I had to remove and reinsert programming, some done intentionally, some accidentally. So, I asked for 10 grand and I wanted to start a business so I could stay home with kids and all that. And I always thought, well, and I'm going to get into, being disrespectful, the spirit, always asking for money, why I stopped asking for money, and why I don't focus on money magic and all that. But I don't think I ended up saying it because I kept going on a different topic. But what I was trying to get at here was that what I wanted, what I casted for, was part of what I needed. And, the time off was also part of what I needed. But it wasn't for the same things I thought at the time what I needed. At the time, thought I needed a job, so I was trying to manifest something closer to something I thought I would like. But didn't happen that way, and more than that, it worked out for the best anyways, because removing programming and reinserting new programming isn't an easy fucking task. It's not easy on anyone. And, unless you can have time off, or you're at a job where you don't have to deal with too many coworkers or people, then they could probably give it a go. But it's not something easy to do. You might actually need time off to do it, unless you work on one program at a time and you have people around you that are understanding, that you work with and shit like that. But anyways, reinsert programming, some done intentionally, some accidentally, but all were efficient. And I've been tested too many times, so many times, absolutely crazy things, to try to give up following witchcraft, following ceremonial magic, following law of attraction, which, law of attraction to me is just another broad term. I don't follow actual law of attraction. You want to attract things using laws, using hermetic principles, the laws of the hermetic principles. But anyways, point is, I was tested many times, and I'm still being tested to give this shit up. Because, my wife has come more on board with it than ever, but it's far from perfect. And seriously, everything from lots of money, where my wife was able to go to LA, we're able to do renovations, I got 10 grand 4 fucking times, that's 40 grand, and that was in the span of probably 18 months to 2 years max, it was a very short span of time. From that, having all that money to being, almost back into using drugs, having a couple relapses, to having no money at all and pressure to get a job and stop watching all the crap I'm watching and give up everything I'm doing and stop buying candles and all this other shit, just over and over and over again, tested. And, I am proud of myself that I never stopped, even when I thought I was cursed, when I thought I was hexed, when I thought, bad things were happening to me, all of the above. I never fucking stopped. I never gave in. And I thank everything around me, from myself to the planets to the watchers, the elements, everything, that I never gave it up. And, because of my issue with drugs, I never went back to asking for money, and I want to make that clear that I still don't do money magic because I don't want to seem disrespectful to divine gods, because I have my theories of what creates what we get and how we manifest, but who knows if I'm right or wrong about that. I'm not going to pretend I know it all, but in the same sense, if there is something out there actually giving this shit to me, well, who am I to know if, I got 40 grand, I got 10 grand 4 times, so maybe, you only get 5 times, and I don't want my last time of a big amount to be 10 grand that I'm just going to piss away again, right? This is how I've been thinking, and now I know it's for different reasons. I had to, I'm not done by any stretch of the imagination of programming, reprogramming, and learning, and evolving and transforming, but I've come pretty far. And to know what I know, to be able to manifest things and have the discipline, I don't even think I have my addiction issues and, me being sober from opiates. I'm more worried about fucking up that way than I am about my manifestation abilities. I have my manifestation abilities down. I can do it. I do it. Honestly, the other day I was doing a ticket. I wasn't supposed to say this, but I gotta say it. I was doing a ticket and I needed $9. And I didn't want to go look for my wife's card. Like, it was just out of pure laziness. And, you know, I was almost halfway done through the card, and I kept getting thoughts that I wasn't going to win. So what did I do? I fucking said... Anyways, let's just say I needed the $9, and I got it, you know? I banished the thought that I wasn't going to win, and I accepted the thought that I was going to win, and I won, you know? And you can say, well, who knows? That was already in the cards. Well, the day before, I bought a card, and I didn't even finish scratching it. And neither did my wife. I gave it to my daughter to finish, and all I did was scratch the fucking barcode and checked it. And that was a $9 winner. So, you know, 2 $9 winners 2 days in a row. What are the odds that's in the cards like that? But anyways, that's besides the point. But the point being that I'm more confident right now of me manifesting what I want and need than I am of my own ability to stay sober. And you can say, well, then why don't you manifest the ability to stop and quit drugs forever? And it's like, well, that's a good fucking question. Why don't I do that? And, you know, I think that's part of the reason why I stay away from money. Because maybe it's because I want to be able to do it on my own. Maybe it's because I don't want to do magic to manifest it, which is just silly. Maybe I don't know. I can't answer that question. I know magic is one of the things that stop me from using, because I know there's something bigger out there. I know there's, I know there's more to life than doing dope and shit like that. So it keeps me away from it enough. But I think it's important to have something you can control that you worry about not controlling. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but because here's the thing, I'm confident of being able to manifest what I need and want. And that's stopping me from manifesting big money wins, right? So, you know, and it's such a hard thing to explain, but because if I manifested a lot of money, let's say, maybe I manifest a lottery ticket win, I'm that good. And, well, because I know I'm good at manifesting, I don't bother to stop or try to tackle my, never doing drugs ever again. You know, just banishing that desire completely out of my body for whatever reason. I don't do that. And because I know I can manifest money, and I just manifested $1 million, I decide to use and piss away that money. And then for some reason I can't get it back. You know what I mean? I think having that fear there, that little fear, that little bit of doubt and worry, and not banishing it away using magic, helps me stay grounded in this realm in a certain way. And I know it's very hard to understand or very hard to explain, and I'm probably not doing a very good job of it, but having that there is something that keeps me grounded, because it reminds me that even though I found out this secret, even though I have this occult knowledge, even though I'm trying to help people also discover this occult knowledge, that I am still a flawed person. I am far from a perfect being, even though, you know, I can talk pretty good. I can talk a big game. I'm well-learned. I can learn fast. I learned lots of little tricks and techniques, you know. I'm never going to get coronavirus, so I'm already ahead of the game there. But it's easy to do and say all the things I say and get a big fucking head and go around with my nose up in the air. But that would just be my ego. By having a flaw, by having a skeleton in my closet, by having something like addiction and being scared of it, crawling back up and taking over to the point where I lose my soul. I know I fuck over my family, deceitful, you know, because earlier I said I'm damn proud of the fact that I never give up magic. That's not easy for someone like me to say, with a lifetime of deceit and drugs and addiction and, you know, criminal activity and going to jail and, you know, beating people until they're in comas and bad things, man. I did a lot of bad shit that I'm not proud of, you know, that I don't even like thinking about still to this day. But in the same sense, I don't regret it, and I wouldn't change any of it because it led me where I am. And it taught me what I needed to know. And it, you know, a lot of that bad stuff put me in touch with my dark side before I even knew about the shadow side. And not in the way not in the way that I understand now by reading Jung and learning from Peterson and shit like that, but in the sense of I knew I was capable of bad things, so I had to keep that shit on lock. But anyways, all that aside, well, not really aside, but I think that's why I keep that there, because it keeps me grounded. It keeps me in this realm, because I think, and I've always been, the type of person that whenever things are going good or really good, I can be a very cocky person. Yeah, that's probably the best way I'll be able to explain. I'll be able to explain that the reason why I don't try to completely vanish away all future, because I've often thought about ways of wording that, because like you can banish your addiction away, you can banish away, when you're doing something, and you can even banish away the future of ever doing the dope. But what happens if I don't know what, but before coming up with what I just came up with, keeping me level and grounded, keeping me somebody who's flawed and not, above anybody, like a self-righteous born-again Christian or something like that. And I know I pick on them a lot and say that a lot, but, you meet them and that's how they act. Like they're better than people because they're saved by Christ. And it's like, I don't need to be saved by Christ to be better than anybody. But because I know I'm not better than anybody, that makes me better than other people, but I'm not actually better than... Anyways, point is, I thought about how to word something like banishing the opportunity or the reason to never do dope again. But the reason I never have in the past was like, well, what happens if I need amphetamines for something? What if my ADD becomes too much, or we find out amphetamines is the cure to something, and because I put that program in, I can't remove it, or whatever the case is, right? It's like banishing yourself from doing something you need to do, like if God's so powerful, can he make a rock so big that even he can't move it? Kind of one of those circumstances, right? So anyways, but in all honesty, I truly believe that it's because it keeps me grounded, because I know at any moment there's a chance that I might fall back into old ways. And I know I'm capable of these dark things when I'm under the influence of drugs, even just alcohol. And even without any of that shit, I'm capable of breaking the law, hurting people if I have to, especially if it's because of hurts my family. But, hurting people because of money, because of petty beefs, just everything and anything. I know I'm capable of doing these dark things. And I know drugs is my epicenter of what could cause all these bad things. Therefore, by having that always present in the back of my mind, I will never become a self-righteous prick, because I feel for those people. A lot of people turn their nose down to them. Alan Watts has this one lecture he does, and he talks about how he spoke to Carl Jung. When he spoke to Carl Jung, he was so amazed on how somebody who, especially to a philosopher, psychologist and all that, that's who fucking Peterson talks about probably more than anybody, and the guy would love to meet him even though he can't because this guy's dead. But, point is, he's a well-known character in spirituality and psychology and all these movements. But he was so floored by how he met somebody like that who didn't have an ego, who wasn't acting all above him, who knew he had the capability of being a flawed human, and who was a flawed human. But even though he still got anxious and still had depression and still had things that he knew he had to work on, he wasn't ashamed of them. He held himself the right way. Anyways, point is that's where I got my inspiration from this. It's not a coincidence that I listened to that last night, and now I know how to word this better than I've ever known how to word it before, because of the fact that I know in the past I've had, in grade school I was conceited, and I went around talking about how I was conceited. When I met my wife, I used to say shit like that too, because I know girls like guys who act like, they're fucking awesome and they're assholes and shit like that. You learn that from movies, but it doesn't make it less true. Whether it's because girls actually like that or because those movies program the girls to like that, who knows, but it does work. But anyways, it's just, I have that Venusian, Taurus, Earth sign, look at me. I'm so good looking. I'm so better than you. I'm so strong. I'm so pretty kind of mentality that if I was able to get rid of my ability or my tendency to have an addictive personality, to not be addicted to anything from. And I mean, I'm addicted to spirituality, baby. Like, I mean, there's nothing I'd rather do. You know, if you were to give me like some coke or some opiates, or, you know, a brand new meditation that's going to feel amazing, or something new I can learn that I could use, whether it's learning clairvoyant fucking abilities, or, you know, how to enhance my third eye capabilities, or, you know, how to fucking write or read or learn faster. Well, I would take that over the dope any day. You know? So don't be fooled. This me talking on Spreaker thing, this teaching thing, the spirituality, occult shit, is just as much an addiction as my opiate addiction. And it hits the same part of my brain because I love this shit. I love doing this shit. I love learning this shit. So don't be fooled. It's an addiction. But it's an addiction that's not going to hurt me, or it's not as likely to hurt me as much as doing opiates for a lifetime, or drinking alcohol for a lifetime, or doing cocaine for a lifetime, or doing amphetamines for a lifetime. So the point is, I guess, I don't give up. I don't set programming in me to never do amphetamines, cocaine, and opiates ever again, because of the fact that it keeps me grounded, because it reminds me that no matter what I learn, no matter what I am, no matter how powerful or how much I can manifest whatever I want, it keeps me level-headed and grounded. It also stops me from trying for a big lottery win and maybe even succeeding and getting it and then self-destructing. And that's something I don't want. Because I don't want to teach my kids that you can learn magic, you can manifest money, and then you're set for your life, you know. But then they're going to shit on other people and think they're better than other people. And that's not what I want to teach them at all. So maybe once they're all in school or, you know, college, or making their way in life, and I'm set, you know, and then I'm done, or, you know, me and my wife have been through enough hard times, that's when I'll go for something like that, when then I can set them up and maybe help them out, you know, come here and there. But anyways, I'm going to keep on going with what I wrote. That was a pretty big side tangent. Because of my issue with Joe, 2 years. Okay. Though I did receive 1,000. Okay, this is me talking about my 40 grand and the 10 grand 4 times, and how, you know, I never went for a big win after that, even though, you know, I got $1,000 in like scratch tickets all put together, and I tried getting $1,000 on one ticket, but I never specified on one ticket. I just said that I'm so grateful that I got $1,000 through a bingo ticket from said corner store. And, you know, all my big winners came from that corner store, but a lot of them came from other stores too. Point is, you know, and plus I got a $500 wins in money that showed up, and different things like that, and wife money. You know, I've done a lot of money magic. That's what I mean. Like, I can bang that out pretty good. But what I was trying to get here, and I'll try to find the line where it starts, but I never started a business with that 10 grand. And that's what I was supposed to do. And, you know, it seemed like something I shouldn't keep squandering. And, you know, in case, you know, we only get so many chances to get money, let's say, or manifest stuff before we transform, you know. And, you know, prior to my transformation, if I didn't piss it all away, well, the point is, you know, trying to get money before you're transformed. If the funny thing is if you wait till after you do the transformation process, well, then you're more well equipped to get that money, and then you don't really need the money, and you realize that even having all that money won't make you happy. And more than that, you get that money before your transformation, and it's going to prolong that transformation. And even more than that, if, you know, you lose all that money, you might not be able to get back into the spiritual shit again, because you're going to be all pissed off and probably blame someone else other than yourself, and you'll never get back into transformation or spirituality, and you'll probably blow your fucking head off because you went from having everything to nothing. So it's probably a good thing I never got. And after I got the 10 grand the 4 times, I was able to stop doing money magic. I realized that, you know, okay, I might need to go back to work. I'm going to keep manifesting little money here and there to keep us afloat, and which I have, and I've been telling you guys as I do it as well, and what I've done to do it. But, you know, I don't go for those big wins because I'm not done my transformation yet, and you're probably never done your transformation yet. But like I said, maybe when I'm older and the kids are set up, and, you know, I figured me and my wife had been through enough, then maybe I'll go for that. And if spirit or something thinks I deserve something before then, well then by all means I'll get it done. But I'd rather try to find something I can do every day that keeps me happy, that keeps the bills paid, the house fed and all that. And, and who knows how the world's going to transform after all this corona shit. One thing's for sure, that we're never going back to the same way we were again before this. Either no one realizes that, it wasn't as severe as it was, and, which is my hope, and that's my hope for what it is, and not what I think, what I know is the truth or anything. Like I can't tell you for sure that this is bullshit, and I can't tell you for sure that this is legit. All I can tell you is the facts. The facts say that the same amount of people have been dying as every other year prior to this, even the years where we had other big deal fucking issues where we had sicknesses, illnesses, viruses, infections that have wiped out people. We still lose the same amount of people from January to March as we have now. That's taken into account. The population grows up, and we're still losing the same ratio of people to the people being born. So we're really at no harm. And, I look at the stats of the age groups and all that. So all that taken in, to me, it's just something that's being over-exaggerated, over-analyzed. But once again, I don't want to be the guy to tell people that, no, it's okay, go out in public. And then this thing keeps spreading and we keep losing people before they're supposed to go. And then it changes from what it is right now to something else. And who knows, maybe the stats I'm looking at were added before some of these deaths. Maybe they were never changed. Maybe they've been altered. I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure. I just know what I look at, what I see, and that's what helps me. There's a reason I find this information, and there's a reason why I tell it to you guys. But anyways, and once you transform, once you have your transformation process complete, well, because I don't necessarily, especially when it comes to negativity and using a negative emotion, I can make that manifestation happen most of the time within a day. But most of those things don't matter. Anything that matters, it can also happen during the same day, but it has to be done either in the morning or at night for me. And then it can happen within 24 hours. Whenever I'm not inducing that state, for some reason, it's like my unconscious, I'm already in the unconscious state. And then for some reason, I whip out a candle and I do it with the Jupiter shit that's happened. There's too many examples for me to name, but when I do it like that, it happens within 24 hours using positive emotion or just the unconscious. Most of the time, it's just the unconscious. It's not using emotion. Using emotion takes a few days. Whereas just being in an unconscious state and programming, reprogramming the mind, you don't always get manifestations right away, but you're putting a new program in your mind so that whenever you try to do manifestations, then you're going to get it. So that's kind of the difference there versus when you're trying to get something. Doing an unconscious way of magic works better. In my case, anyways, with my energy, with my birth chart, with my set of fucking planets and where they are in my zodiac, it works better for me that way. If I do the lesser banishing and middle pillar in my ritual twice in that day or more, plus doing my ritual unconsciously either in the morning or at night, I can get the manifestation to happen within 24 hours versus doing my ritual once a day and putting emotion into it. And, then it can take 3 to 4 days to a week, 2 weeks, depending on how big it is, but it still happens. So that's just a little advice, I guess. Maybe you can give it a shot. But and that's kind of what I was trying to say here, was that my manifestations, whenever you become transformed, all you have to do is think about it and visualize it, and, it'll be done, basically. And so, getting the money before you're transformed is just you under the old programming thinking you need money to be happy. It's not necessarily the case. You need money to survive in our world. Yes, this world is material. And, I wouldn't have went on all that time about how I don't banish my drug addiction completely. Or, sorry, my drug addiction. I keep saying addiction, but it's not addiction anymore because I haven't used. But that ability to relapse, I guess. I don't banish that ability to relapse away because it keeps me grounded. I wouldn't have went over that over and over again if, things like money didn't matter. Things like money do matter, and we do need money. But get what you need, and don't try to get more than you need so you can either be better than somebody or never have to work again, or whatever the case is. Because, if you're doing it because you never have to work again, because you hate working, well then, that's probably where you got Saturn in your chart, and you're probably going to have to prove to him something before you get past and beyond that. But anyways, so God's gave me 40 grand plus a bunch of small other winnings. And, you know, if I was to keep going up and trying to get more and more money, well, they're probably going to want more than just a candle and incense. You know, it's like a disrespectful act, to ask when you aren't, you know, disciplined enough to technically, you know, the money, when they do give you the money, you don't even use it the way you said you were going to use it to keep making more. So you stop asking, which is what I did. You know, I had to keep asking. And, you know, I don't even use it for the right way. And then the next time I only use a candle. It's like, well, we gave you this much money. You couldn't even just spend like $20 on us this time or more. You know, that's how I thought. So there's another reason why I didn't keep doing money magic. And I'm not trying to stop anybody from doing money magic. All I'm trying to do and say is make it clear that you can keep asking for money over and over and over again. But if you don't become disciplined and you don't start transforming, you don't start realizing that asking for money and getting it is not the answer. You're going to need to find out a different way to keep going. You have to get going on your transformation, because the point I get to, or the point I'm going to probably just say now instead of continuing to go through everything I wrote, is simply that, you know, it's disrespectful to you and yourself, you know, and you might get to a point where you're cursing the gods, cursing the sky, cursing magic. But to me, that's like you're cursing your own body. And it's like, is there any wonder why you're not getting what you want? If you're going to curse the gods, curse body for everything you don't have or you didn't get, even though it's you that didn't have the discipline, you that didn't finish the transformation process, you that didn't learn what you needed to learn or do what you promised you would do. So to me, it's like it's all on you. And if you don't take that personal respect on, or that personal responsibility on yourself, well then you got nobody else to blame but yourself for not getting what you wanted. You know, it's a part of you that's denying your request. It's your subconscious, you know, denying it, you know, because basically you're trying to put something into your subconscious mind that gets played out unconsciously by you. So you put that into your subconscious mind, but then unconsciously you don't end up playing it out because you either did it wrong or you weren't ready for it. Something denied your request. And it's through your own body that happens. It's through your own circumstances, through what you've proven to be or not be, basically. That stopped you, you know, your higher self, your higher spiritual awareness, whatever the case may be. That's what stopped you. So you need to keep that in mind whenever you're waving your hand at the sky and saying, fuck you to God or magic or everything and anything. But all this to say that if you want to try to manifest anything before you are done certain grades or, you know, a certain evolution or spiritual awareness, then you should follow the 7 hermetic principles. Because without the 7 hermetic principles, without knowing them, your magic won't go anywhere. That's the reason the law of attraction didn't work for most people. Now, there's maybe some people that intuitively knew the law of attraction. I mean, like Bob Proctor knows the 7 hermetic principles inside and out. So for him to be on that movie, The Secret, and be promoting the law of attraction, well, he knew all the other shit you needed to know. But he was only promoting maybe one part of a part of a hermetic principle, you know, but he knew everything else you needed to know to go along with it. So obviously his shit worked. More than that, he's been, you know, using affirmations and shit all his life. So, but all that stands in the mind. All that. Anyways, I don't know where I'm going to keep going with this, but sorry, I lost track of what I was about to say there. But the point is, if you want to manifest, you need to use the hermetic principles to your benefit. Now, I'm supposed to go over all those hermetic principles right now and how they refer to magic. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for you, but I don't think I'm going to have time to do it today because I've already gotten, I think, about an hour and a half to 2 hours of content here with information that you can use in it. So my next episode, which is going to probably be, hopefully, I'm going to be working on it tomorrow. It'll probably be released the next day, so Sunday. Well, today Saturday, so Monday. Anyways, I'm off for the next 3 weeks, everybody. So I'm back at home, full time, no working. So you're going to start getting episodes, hopefully every 2-3 days max. So stay tuned for that. Also, I'm working on some programs, fucking cheap, probably like $5 or whatever you want to pay for them, with a minimum of either like $2 or $3, something like that, through Gumroad. And I'm just gonna everything I've said in my show, I'm going to have on these programs, plus anything I may have left out. And now, off the top of my head, I don't think I left anything out except for everything I haven't said yet. And I'm still going to say these things, but problem is I'm going to probably have to delete my beginning shows because to make more room, they're still going to be probably on my YouTube as long as they're going to hold it there. Because I don't think deleting them off speaker will delete them off YouTube. They automatically get put there and they stay there. So they're not going to be gone from forever. You'll have to go to YouTube to find them. Or I'm either going to, I'm going to be condensing all the first basic information. The first program I'm going to put out is how to take out and put in programs, basically, what you need to know. And I'm going to be using all the hypnosis stuff I know, all the NLP stuff I know, and from all the candle, sigil magic, from Birch, from Frater that I've learned and altered in my own way, giving them the credit for what they taught me with my own spin on it. And, to the recording stuff at night, to sleeping on a book, to hermetic principles, how they work and all that. Once again, I'm still going to keep doing this show. I'm still going to keep going on. I don't even know when I'm going to release this. It's probably going to be shortly. But it depends on how long it takes me to do this because I have a Gumroad account. Now I haven't paid for the full access yet, where you get have unlimited bandwidth and all that. So I might need to do that because I plan on making videos of me carving a candle, showing you exactly what I write on there if you can see it. Of me, making a statement of intent with the actual words and how I lay it out. NLP triggers. I'm going to give you like a basic of language patterns, persuasive language patterns, different words you can use to, amp up, to persuade other people, obviously, but more importantly yourself, to get these things in you faster. And I'm going to have this, mixed in with the little tricks, like, when you cross your arms, you engage both sides of your mind, because as soon as your right arm crosses the middle point of your body, well, your left side of your brain controls your right arm, right? And your right side of your brain controls your left arm. But whenever your right arm crosses that middle point of your body, now you've engaged when your right arm passes the middle point of your body, okay, your left part of your brain was controlling it. It's still controlling it, but you've also engaged the right part of the brain because that's controls that side. But that arm is part of you, but it's now on the side of the brain that you control because, and this is speculation, but your brain controls more than just your body. There's also an aura, there's an energy around you, there's an energy field. So it's controlling everything on that side within a certain distance. But that's a video for another time. But so when you cross your arms, you engage both parts of your mind. You cross your legs, there's a bunch of different little things like that if you do while reading and writing and shit like that, you have your mind connected, so things happen faster. Likewise, like I said, I think my last episode, if you do that while watching something that's programming you the wrong way, you're going to probably get it in your mind a lot faster, you're going to learn it faster, you might connect to it faster, so that's something you should stay away from, and it's going to be a basic knowledge of do's and don'ts, and, I'm going to have to explain how we are programmed as a child and shit like that. And I'm going to give everybody who's ever taught me something their stuff. Obviously not, it's my program, I'm charging for it, so I can't exactly put other people's voices on it at this point, but a reference to it, link to it, and explain it the best way. I'm going to have it well done. So it's going to be audio files and it's going to be video files showing you the things that I can't explain, I think, as well as possible. And like I said, it's going to be either $5 or $3 or something like that, something cheap, just to put a price on it so more people use it, so that it's something that's actually, because there is something said about a program that someone pays for versus somebody who doesn't. Birch says this, a lot of people say it. There's these things done where, these experiments done where they put a car with a free sign on it and no one calls, but people have seen it. Yet when they put $1,000 on that car, people are calling for it. People want something with a price on it. They don't want something when it's free. But anyways, so I think that's where I'm going to end it today. Check out the Hermetic Principles if you haven't yet after listening to me for so long. My next episode is going to be about how your statement intent is going to take in all the Hermetic Principles to make your manifestation happen the best. My voice is fading in and out because I'm talking with my hands and I keep moving the fucking phone because I don't have a headset on. So I'll listen to this after if it's shitty or redo it. But anyways, so I think that's as far as I'm going to go today. Because I got to fix the toilet. I got to put the new toilet upstairs and I bring the old toilet downstairs to put in the bathroom down there and a few other things. And I want to play this while I'm doing that so I can make sure it goes off without a hitch. So my bad on now playing, but this is like, I've only wrote down for the law of mentalism, which is all is in the mind of God, and how you use that for manifestation, how that incorporates into your statement of intent, and how you have to make sure you use that in a proper way, whether it's through your statement of intent, through ritual, through your visualization, whatever aspect of manifestation, you incorporate it. And this is what I mean. This is why when you stack magic, it works better. Because normally when you stack magic, you're using all of the hermetic principles or more of them. That's kind of the way it works, so for me anyway. So like if you're not hitting the law of gender somehow, like if you're making a sigil, well, if you're using a sigil and you're trying to put it in your subconscious mind, so you're kind of using a lot of gender because you consciously made it, and your subconscious is the female, but that could be polarity. But anyways, point is when you stack magic, you're using more hermetic principles, so it's more likely to work. That's kind of what I'm going to go in. But just with the law of mentalism and the law of correspondence, and then I wrote the law of vibration, which is the next one. That's as far as I got. And I've got 4 fucking pages just on those 2. I don't know how much that will translate into recording time, but, it's going to be enough. And I don't have the other ones complete, so I was just going to fucking freeball it out here for you, which I still might do the next time. And maybe I'll start preparing tonight, but expect it in 2 days, probably from now. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the fucking show. And like always, have yourself a great fucking day.
The biggest fun in sexual relationships is giving orgasm.
Sorry, everybody. Let me go back a little bit just to get some context.
As a result of thoughtless pursuit of pleasure, which ends you eventually in the
You'll probably hear the whole fucking thing.
To make everything go the right way, and we've never thought it through. When you get control of it, what are you going to do with it?
All right, I think I'm about there. And this is the part about power.
Frustrated in love. If you're jilted, there's a natural tendency in a human being to seek power as a substitute. And that's a very negative thing. It's like having a bad temper. To seek power after you're frustrated in love, you should try and get back on the love beam. Because nobody wants power. Now, you may say that's shirking responsibility. That if you were a really responsible person, you would go out for power and try to use power to the best possible advantage for the benefit of all. All right, what would be the benefit of all? Ask them, what do you want me to do with this power? I'm dictator. What would you like me to do? Well, nobody knows because they haven't thought it through. They think of all sorts of short-range things. And they are largely conflicting and confusing because they're not well thought out. But again, when it finally comes down to it, nobody wants to be God. Now then, when Oriental philosophy and religion was first introduced to the Western world, it was introduced under the auspices of people who were fascinated with power. It was introduced in the latter part of the 19th century, when we had heard all about evolution and how the human race was going on to ever greater heights, and we would eventually develop Superman, according to Nietzsche or G.B. Shaw, and H.G. Wells. Remember all that early fantasy of where evolution would lead through the development of technology. And so at this time, people like H.P. Blavatsky were talking about the mysterious wisdom of the East. And they phrased it, they commended it to us in a technological spirit. That there was psychic technology. That there was something that you could go way beyond anything that could be done through the physical sciences. You could cause your physical body to disintegrate to another level of vibration, and then transmit it and reassemble it somewhere else. You could live as long as you liked because you control the fundamental processes. You could determine, if you decided to die, where you would be reborn, exactly. You would be a complete master of life. And so there are still innumerable books being sold which present Oriental philosophy and religion in this light. That charlatan Lobsang Rampa, who writes about Tibetan mastery. People read that because they think that there may be a way of beating the game. So therefore, the wise men of Asia were represented through this kind of propaganda as masters of life, as, for example, people whose emotions didn't bother them, who could put up with any amount of pain by simply turning off their feelings, who could foretell the future, who could read your thoughts, and who were above all kinds of ordinary human frailty. Well, when I first met Buddhist priests, Zen masters, swamis, all these wise men from the East, one of the first things that impressed itself upon me was that they were perfectly ordinary human beings. They had bad tempers. They were fussy about certain things. They just acted as I would expect human beings to act. And so at first I was very disappointed. I thought they had feet of clay, that they didn't come up to these promises of psychotechnology. But after a while I got to realize why not, that they had already thought all that through. They had thought through what might be done if one had all these powers, and had decided that wasn't what they wanted. The powers of this kind in Sanskrit are called siddhi, S-I-D-D-H-I. But there is hardly one decent scripture or text on yoga that does not say again and again, if you get siddhi, ignore them. Go on to something else. These are only the foothills. These are, furthermore, not only foothills, but they are seductive, blind alleys. Won't take you anywhere at all. Now, I think that this is the greatest possible lesson for the Western world to learn, because we are so hung up on the idea of power, of control, of being able to make everything go the right way, and if we've never thought it through. When you get control of it, what are you going to do with it? Supposing I'm an alchemist, and I have a whole secret closet full of love filters, very potent ones. And if I see a desirable woman, all I have to do is to offer her a cigarette or give her a glass of wine with one of my secret potions in it. And instantly, I'm her master. Now, when I think that through, what would I do with a situation like that? Because all I've got again is that plastic doll that when I push it, it does what I tell it to and doesn't have any comeback. What you always are looking for in things is where the surprise is there, where there's a comeback. And you say, my God, this thing is alive. It has a will of its own. It is not in my control. And I would like to have a relationship with something like that, because it would never be dull. And also, you would feel true affection. After all, you can make love to yourself in a mirror. You can have one of those Dutch wives. You buy them in a place in Kobe, where you get these rubber girls that you fill with hot water. And sailors take them on long voyages. But what an awful thing, when you realize that this thing has no gear, no surprise in it, no thing that it does on its own, you see. And so when you think things through like that, you understand you do not want power. You don't want to control everything. And therefore these Zen Buddhist masters that I met and others were not super occultists. And very many Westerners who visited Japan expecting to get a Satori, as a result of which they would know everything and control everything, were grievously disappointed and said there's not much in this after all. So, therefore, from the standpoint of Buddhism, the fact that the power game is not the game is expressed by saying a Buddha is one who has gone beyond the gods, because the gods have power. The Buddhism imagines all kinds of levels of heaven worlds inhabited by all kinds of gods, and the supreme of all the gods is called Ishvara. But it is said that all those gods in their paradisal worlds are in samsara. They're in the round of birth and death, and what goes up must come down. They're immensely successful. They're at the peak of power, spiritual power. But they're not delivered yet, because they still don't know what they want. And therefore, in the exploration of what you want, you get to the point where, having all pleasures at your command, and they pall, and you think of new sources of pleasure. And eventually you get like the ancient Romans, who had all these mad crowds of barbarians who had to go every Saturday to the Colosseum for a show that really had to surpass everything, because they had public baths, they had prostitutes, they had every kind of luxury. But when they went to see one of the big shows that people like Nero put on, they would have, for example, floats circling the Colosseum, all full of slave girls from distant parts of the Mediterranean, garlanded with flowers and waving at the crowd and going innocently around. And the next minute they would release wild lions into the arena to eat up all the slave girls. And they got a big sadistic kick out of that. Because you see, pursuing pleasure beyond a certain place takes you into what the Buddhists call the Naraka world, that is to say, the hells. When you have explored pleasure to its ultimate limit, the only thing you can get a kick out of is pain. And so naturally, you descend from the Deva world at the top of the wheel to the Naraka world at the bottom, where it shows all these beings in states of torture. Now, of course, the priests say, when they're bringing up children, if you do bad things, you will end up in the hell world. But this is a very inadequate way of showing how one gets to the hell world. You get to the hell world as a result of not knowing what you want, as a result of thoughtless pursuit of pleasure, which ends you eventually in the pursuit of pain. So when you're in the hell world, that's where you want to be. So then the question is, to clarify once more, what do we want? If you understand, first of all, that you don't want absolute power, you don't want absolute control. You want, yes, some control. You see, we always love controlling something that's not really under our control. Remember, I gave you the illustration right in the beginning of holding a gyroscopic top and feeling sometimes you're with it, but sometimes it's alive under your hand. And this sensation, too, you often get, say, in driving a car or something like that. It's more or less under your control, but on the other hand, it isn't. And that's the beautiful thing, because when something is partly under your control, but isn't, then you have the same sort of relationship with it that you have when you have someone you love, some other person. They're partly under your control because they've agreed to live with you and go along with you and so on, but also they're not. And the measure to which they're not is the measure to which they seem really alive to you. So then, we ask the question, if the motivation of power gaining disappears, you've seen through it and you know that's not what you want. What other motivation takes its place as the origin of actions? And it seems to me that the answer here is compassion. Simply because when you want to relate to another living being, what you really are asking of them is that they be in the same situation that you are. You want to meet and encounter someone else who has your problems, your fears, and your delights. You don't want a doll, you want another you, another self. Because that would be at least as surprising to you as you are. And so then at once, that when you see that that is the case, and that the most interesting thing in the world is the relationship with these others, and you can see at once yourself in the situation of all the other people, and then you think, no, I don't want to control these people. I would like them, yes, to be controlled in the sense that they were happy to do the things I would like them to do. But obviously I can't force that, because if I forced it, they wouldn't be happy. See, when you marry someone, when you have a family, you want your children, you want your relatives, you want your wife, etc., to be happy to do the things for you that they do. And so we say to each other, would you like to bring the washing in? And very often the answer is no, but I will. Because you see, we put it that way because we always hope that the things that we do for each other will be pleasurable to both sides. So a school teacher will get up in class and says, "What nice boy will clean the blackboard for me?" All these ways we use of trying to get voluntary cooperation, willingly given help. That's what we look for. But there is, despite the lot of foolishness that goes on, this is a sound thing, you see, that there really is no greater satisfaction that you can imagine than that kind of personal relationship wherein you can trust a being who is other than you and not under your control to do for you what you want, because they like it. As you, on your side, would want to do something for them in that way, and so as to give pleasure to the other person. Let's take in sexuality, where you get a kind of a critical example of this. The biggest fun in sexual relationships is giving orgasm to women. And if that doesn't happen, many men feel relationships is giving orgasm to women. Where you get a kind of a critical example of this. The biggest fun in sexual relationships is giving orgasm to women. And if that doesn't happen, many men feel disappointed. Because the thing that they really wanted to do was to give pleasure and get their own pleasure out of giving it. Now that's compassion. in the real sense of the word, feeling with and through someone else. Where the whole trick is that you lose control for a while of the situation and say, I throw the ball to you, now it's yours. Now, I may seem, therefore, as a result of talking in this way, to be talking like a Jewish or a Christian theologian. Because that's what they say about God. That God did something called kenosis in the beginning of all time. Kenosis is a Greek word meaning self-emptying, self-sacrifice, giving up, and thereby conferred freedom of will and the power to love on angels and human beings. And therefore took a terrific risk by trusting the other, by trusting a principle called other that's not under your control. With God, of course, it is ultimately under his control, but he sits back and smokes a cigar sometimes and lets it go. See what the children will do. Like the Lord in Green Pastures, a big cigar. So, but you see, it's really in a way the same idea as the Hindu idea. When the Christian speaks of God giving the creature freedom of will, the Hindu says, no, God gets lost in that person and gives up power. And it's really the same thing. It's the idea that the all-powerful surrenders power. So that the more you give the power away, what you're really doing is you're othering yourself. Now, the more you other yourself by giving power away, the more of a self you are, because self and other are reciprocal. So you find that people who through a sadhana, a yoga discipline, have overcome their ego, have transcended the ego, are tremendously strong personalities. You would think, theoretically, they would all be non-entities, and to lack entirely what psychologists call ego strength. But actually, they're nothing of the kind. They are, every one of them, unique. They're all quite different from each other. And they are very, very, what I would call strong characters. Because the more they have given it up, the more they get it. So, in this way of thinking, let's put it in another dimension for the moment. Let's suppose we are thinking of a relationship that is not just to people. People are very obviously other and independent of one's ego. But give it to everything. Say to everything, which in course is going to include as much of yourself as you can objectivize. In other words, your stomach, your intestines, your everything, see? Say to it all, now it's your turn. Let's see what you're going to do. Let it happen. You know, you do this complete let-off of control. And you find that I have to put it in a provisional way first. You get the sensation that that everything else is living you. It lives you. That you've given away control, you see, to everything else. It's a lovely, irresponsible state to be in. But then, you see, you do the flip. Bloop. In giving away the control, you got it. You got the kind of control you wanted. That's to say, where you had a loving relationship to the world, but you didn't have to make up your mind what it should do. You let it decide. Now, do you see that's how your bodies work? You don't have to make up your mind what your nerve cells are going to do. You've delegated all that authority. If the President of the United States has to lay awake at nights thinking what every official under his command is going to do, he can't be president. He's got to make an act of trust in all those subordinates to be responsible and carry on their things in just the same way as you make an act of trust to all your subordinate organs to carry on their functions without you having to tell them what to do.
Make an episode today, make it tomorrow. I already started all my recording.
And this is the secret of what we will call organic power as distinct from political power. Lao Tzu puts it in this way: the great Tao flows everywhere, both to the left and to the right. It loves and nourishes all things, but does not lord it over them. And when merits are accomplished, it lays no claim to them. The more, therefore, you relinquish power, trust others, the more powerful you become, but in such a way that instead of having to lie awake nights controlling everything, you do it beautifully by trusting the job to everyone else. And they carry it on for you. So you can go to sleep at night and trust your nervous system to wake you up in the morning. You can even tell it, I want to wake up at 6 o'clock, and it'll wake you up just like an alarm clock. This seems a sort of paradox to say this, but the principle of unity, of coming to a sense of oneness with the whole of the rest of the universe, is not to try to obtain power over the rest of the universe. That will only disturb it and antagonize it and make it seem less one with you than ever. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it as another, as you would another, and say, let's see what you're going to do. But in doing that, you see, in saying that to everything else that you have been taught to think is not you, you are also saying it to yourself. Because finally, as I pointed out, you do not know where your decisions come from. They pop up like hiccups. And when you make a decision, people have a great deal of anxiety about making decisions. There's this guy farmer, who ordered a help man to come in, and found he was an extraordinarily efficient worker, because the first day he put him on sawing logs. And he sawed more logs than anybody had ever sawed. It was fantastic. But it was all done in one day. So the next day he put him on to mending fences. And there were all kinds of broken fences around the farm, and in one day he had the whole thing done. So he thought, what am I going to do with this guy? So he took him down into a basement and said, look, here are all the potatoes that have come in from this harvest. And I want you to sort them into 3 groups. Those that we sell, those that we use for seeding, and those that we throw away. So he left him at that. At the end of the day, the laborer came back and said, well, that's enough, mister. I quit. Oh, he said, you can't quit. I've never had such an excellent worker. I'll raise your salary. I'll do anything to keep you around here. I said, no. It's all right mending fences and chopping wood, but this potato business is decision after decision after decision after decision. So when we decide, we're always worrying, did I think this over long enough? Did I take enough data into consideration? And if you think it through, you find you never could take enough data into consideration. The data for a decision in any given situation is infinite. So what you do is, you go through the motions of thinking out what you will do about this. And then when the time comes to act, you make a snap judgment. I mean, I'm speaking a little extremely, making some fun of it and so on, because after all, we do occasionally get the vague outlines of things and make a right decision on rational grounds. But we fortunately forget the variables that could have interfered with this coming out right. It's amazing how often it works. But warriors are people who think of all the variables beyond their control and what might happen. So then when you make a decision, and it works out all right, I think very little of it has much to do with your conscious intent and control. But somehow or other, you are able to decide and control things more harmoniously if you delegate authority. That's why very great businessmen are those who can delegate authority. Trust others to work for them. Because those are people developing businesses on the same basic structure that is fundamental to a living organism. Delegation of authority. It loves and nourishes all things, but does not lord it over them. And you see, then, what is happening is this. The more you let go of it and trust it, as if it were quite other than you, the more you realize the inseparable identity of self and other. To go back, if you try to find the identity of self and other by subjecting other to self, no go. If, on the other hand, you find it through giving self, that is control, over to other and trusting that, you may make a mistake. You may make a bad gamble. But in the long run, you're acting on a principle which has the backing of evolution. This is the way biological evolution goes on. Constant delegation of authority. That's why, obviously, the democracy is superior to the monarchy. It was de Tocqueville who said that democracy is always right, but for the wrong reasons. Because there is operating in a democracy the principle that Buckminster Fuller calls synergy. And synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system, the nature of which is always unknown to the individual members. Because that goes back again to this point, that we're always entering a new environment. We don't ever know fully what the new environment is, because the only environments we know are the past ones. There is always then operating in the development of cellular life on any level a new way of organization, higher than any existing form, and we are not aware of it until after it's happened. if you ever saw, for example, the film Kon-Tiki, this man figured out a few things as to how to make a balsa wood raft to sail from South America to the Pacific Islands. But once he had set this in motion, he discovered that all sorts of unexpected factors cooperated with him. That when the wood got wet, it expanded, so that the ties bit into it and held it completely secure. He had never expected that. And he found that as he sailed along, a flying fish would simply alight flat on the deck every morning for breakfast. That all kinds of natural factors, it was just, he had touched a key where he was flowing with the course of nature, and everything cooperated with him. Because he had touched the key. He had made the act of faith. And he was just picking up, in other words, a practice which had been hundreds and hundreds of years ago, had been followed by others who had worked it out by their great ecological awareness. So we do come out of this way of thinking to something which has, I would say, the most enormously creative and revolutionary social consequences. That it has become not virtuous, not self-sacrificing, not anything like that. It has become the hardest practical politics to let go control to others, to give up trying to dominate the scene. Also, in a parallel way, it has become at this time in our history very much hard practical politics. To learn how to enjoy ourselves. You can go to the Protestant people with their Protestant ethic who are against this kind of thing, and now say to them with great glee, it is your solemn duty to learn how to enjoy yourself. Why? Because in an age of leisure, people have really got to know how to enjoy themselves. Because if they don't, they'll smash the whole future of the human race. So a utopia has become not some sort of a dream, but an urgent necessity. We can't do without it. Because if we try to do without it, what's going to happen is that we are going to terminate our race in a mutual massacre of scapegoats. And so the present paranoia in the United States that is going on, where everybody is thinking up a new scapegoat and how great it will be to demolish them or get them out of power, all this kind of bickering and right and left politics has become irrelevant. Because we now have the opportunity of trusting our own intelligence, our own technology, to take the risk of doing what we want, which will work to the extent that we realize that what I want, basically, what I really want is what you want. And I don't know what you want. Surprise me. But that's the kinship between I and thou. So when I ask, I go right down to the question, should we start it with, what do I want? The answer is, I don't know. When Bodhidharma was asked, who are you? Which is another form of the same question. He said, I don't know. Planting flowers to which the butterflies come. Bodhidharma says, I know not. I don't know what I want. Well, when you don't know what you want, you've reached the state of desirelessness. When you really don't know. You see, there's a beginning stage of not knowing, and there's an ending stage of not knowing. In the beginning stage, you don't know what you want because you haven't thought about it, or you've only thought superficially. Then when somebody forces you to think about it and go through and say, yeah, I think I'd like this, I think I'd like that, I think I'd like the other, there's the middle stage. Then you get beyond that. Say, is that what I really want? In the end you say, no, I don't think that's it. I might be satisfied with it for a while, and I wouldn't turn my nose up at it, but it's not really what I want. Why don't you really know what you want? 2 reasons that you don't really know what you want. Number 1, you have it. Number 2, you don't know yourself, because you never can. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. Just as a knife doesn't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, light doesn't illumine itself. It's always an endless mystery to itself. I don't know. And this I don't know, uttered in the infinite interior of the spirit, this I don't know is the same thing as I love, I let go, I don't try to force or control. It's the same thing as humility. And so the Upanishads say, if you think that you understand Brahman, you do not understand, and you have yet to be instructed further. If you know that you do not understand, then you truly understand. For the Brahman is unknown to those who know it, and known to those who know it not. And the principle is that any time you, as it were, voluntarily let up control, in other words, cease to cling to yourself, you have an access of power. Because you're wasting energy all the time in self-defense, trying to manage things, trying to force things to conform to your will. The moment you stop doing that, that wasted energy is available. And therefore, you are, in that sense, having that energy available, you are one with the divine principle. You have the energy. When you're trying, however, to act as if you were God, that is to say, you don't trust anybody and you're the dictator and you have to keep everybody in line, you lose the divine energy. Because what you're doing is simply defending yourself. So then, the principle is, the more you give it away, the more it comes back. Now you say, I don't have the courage to give it away. I'm afraid. And you can only overcome that by realizing you better give it away because there's no way of holding on to it. The meaning of the fact, you see, that everything is dissolving constantly, that we're all falling apart, we're all in a process of constant death, and that the worldly hope men set their hearts upon turns ashes, or it prospers, and like snow upon the desert's dusty face, lighting a little hour or two is gone. You know, all that Omar Khayyam jazz. You know, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the great globe itself, I, all which it inherits, shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. All falling apart. Everything is. That's the great assistance to you. See, that fact that everything is in decay is your helper. That is allowing you that you don't have to let go because there's nothing to hold on to. It's achieved for you, in other words, by the process of nature. So once you see that you just don't have a prayer, and it's all washed up, and that you will vanish and leave not a rack behind, and you really get with that, suddenly you find you have the power, this enormous access of energy. But it's not power that came to you because you grabbed it. It came in entirely the opposite way. And power that comes to you in that opposite way is power with which you can be trusted. Of course, what we've been talking about is not so much a set of ideas as an experience, or shall we say experiencing. And this kind of seminar, in comparison with encounter groups or workshops of various kinds, or experiments in sensory awareness, is now being called a conceptual seminar. Although I'm not talking about concepts. But the crucial question arises that an understanding, a real feeling understanding, of the polar relationship between the individual and the world is something that operates, as we say, in your bones, and isn't just a view that you hold or a belief that you hold. It's so curious that the emphasis of the Western tradition in religion is primarily upon right belief. Do you believe in the right dogmas and the right doctrines? And only secondarily upon right action. Because what you believe is, in Christianity at any rate, far more important than what you do. Because one is saved through faith, not by works. And early in its history, the Christian church rejected the movement in the church which had been known as Gnosticism, from the Greek gnosis, which means knowledge. And in a way, there were some sound reasons for doing so. Because the Gnostics were what I would call anti-materialists. They divided human beings into three classes that were called, respectively, pneumatic, psychic, and hylic. The last one being Hylic, from the Greek hyli, or they would call it now ile, meaning wood. So the people were spiritual, psychological, and wooden. And that is to say, the wooden people were those most absorbed in materiality and most closely identified with their bodies. And Orthodox Christianity rejected this sort of distinction because of the perfectly correct idea that material existence is not inconsistent with spirituality. This is something which most Christians have forgotten. But they do believe as the central principle of Christianity in what's called the incarnation. That in the Jesus of Nazareth, Almighty God did in fact become material, become human. And by this process, initiated a transformation of the cosmos. In the words of St. Athanasius, God became man, that man might become God. And you don't hear that from the pulpit very often. The Christian church therefore emphasized pistis or faith as against gnosis or knowledge. Because they said you can never know God. God could never become an object of knowledge. And in this funny roundabout way, the Christian theologians were saying exactly the same thing as the Hindus. Only the Hindus do call this knowledge of God through faith, they call it jnana, which is the same as the Greek word gnosis. But just to give you a little sidelight on how words get mixed up in their meanings, we now have a class of person called an agnostic. And an agnostic generally means a person who doesn't commit himself to any beliefs about the ultimate nature of things. He just says he doesn't know. But the original word, agnosia in Greek, meant a special kind of knowledge. It was called the dark knowledge of God. The knowledge of God in the cloud of unknowing, to use the title of a mystical treatise written by an anonymous 14th century English monk. This monk derived his ideas from a very mysterious figure who wrote under the name of Dionysius the Areopagite. Dionysius was a 5th or 6th century Syrian monk who had learned his mysticism from Porphyry, who got it from Plotinus, who was a Neoplatonist, and who probably got a great deal of stimulation from the intellectual world of Alexandria. And Alexandria, in the early years of the Christian era, was a tremendous exchange place between East and West. Buddhist monks visited Alexandria. It was one of the great centers of trade between Rome and India. And as you may know, all Rome's gold eventually went to India for the purchase of pepper. And as a result of this, the Roman economy collapsed. They bought too much luxury from India. India, in exchange, got Roman architecture. And you'll see a lot of Roman architecture in Indian temples. But Alexandria was the great center for the Gnostics and for Christian theology. And some of the greatest theologians, Clement, Origen, Athanasius, St. Cyril, all worked out of Alexandria. Well, now going back to this strange monk, Dionysius, it was he who first put around the idea in Christian circles that there was such a thing of the knowledge as the knowledge of God by faith, by agnosia, really, by unknowing. And he, in a book which he wrote, very short book called the Theologia Mystica, he wrote a treatise on the higher knowledge of God, which might be quoted directly from the Upanishads in certain parts of it. The last section of it reads like the Mandukya Upanishad, because it's a series of negations. It says what God is not. And he goes very far, because he says that God is not one. He says our idea of unity falls far short of what God is. So does our idea of Trinity. So does our idea of spirit, our idea of mind, of justice, of love. All these things are not really God. And he says in another place, if anybody, having seen God, understood what he had seen, what he would have seen would not have been God, but some creature of God, less than God, some sort of angel or something like that. It's perfectly amazing to consider the influence that this man had. For writing under the name of Dionysius the Areopagite, he became identified, you see, with St. Paul's first convert in Athens. And legend has it that he was the first bishop of Athens and was martyred in Gaul, where he's known as St. Denis. But St. Thomas Aquinas looked upon the writings of Dionysius the Areopagite as having the highest authority. And you could, if all the texts of Dionysius's work had been lost, you could restore most of it from quotations in St. Thomas. He wrote really two very important books. One was the one I said, the Theologia Mystica. The other was called The Divine Names. And these two books presented the two phases of his theology. The book called The Divine Names was a discussion on the nature of God in terms of what God is like, by analogy. And this kind of knowledge of God he called kataphatic, from the Greek pheme, to speak or say, kata, meaning to say according to, that is to say, to speak by analogy. Where he used, though, entirely negative language about God, this sort of discourse was called apophatic, and the word apo meaning away from, to talk away from. Just as a sculptor, when he makes an image, reveals the image by removing stone. And so Dionysius explained that one attains the knowledge of God by discarding concepts, which is exactly what the Hindus mean when they say, of God one can only say neti, neti, not this, not this, not any conception. So thus in Hindu philosophy, the highest state of consciousness in samadhi is called nirvikalpa samadhi, which means literally non-conceptual. Vikalpa means a concept. Nir is a negation. So the non-conceptual knowledge. Now, people have greatly misunderstood this. They have imagined that unknowing the state of the highest contemplation was the acquisition of a blank mind, from which you first discarded thought, you went on to discard perception, you went on to discard any kind of sensory content in awareness, until you were, so far as anyone could say, aware of nothing. And they supposed that this kind of catatonic state was mystical consciousness. This is often believed in India. If you go to the Vedanta Society and ask, what do you mean by nirvikalpa samadhi, they will tell you that the one in that state has no consciousness whatsoever of the sensory world, that he is completely absorbed, as you sometimes see Hindu holy men sitting in a state where they are blind and deaf to everything going on around them. The founder of Chinese Zen, known as Huineng, described people like that as no better than pieces of rock and lumps of wood. He said it's a very serious mistake indeed to confuse sunyata, the Sanskrit word for the great void, which is both the ultimate reality and the consciousness thereof. He said it's a great mistake to confuse it with nothingness. It is rather to be thought of as space, or like space, because space is not empty. It contains the whole universe. And so in the same way, the state of mind of a person who is truly enlightened is not empty. It contains everything. But like space, it is not stained by what it contains. And it's often said in Zen imagery, you can't hammer a nail into space. You can't spit on the sky and soil it. If you try, the spit will just return and hit your own face. So they go on to say the consciousness in all of us, your basic mind is like space. It is completely pure. But of course, by purity, they don't mean unsexual, which is, of course, what purity generally means in the Western world. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. A person who's pure in heart is generally understood as one who never has any naughty thoughts. You know what naughty means? It means vain, negative, empty. A naughty person, therefore, is one who doesn't amount to anything, who's just nothing. That's the real meaning. But this misunderstanding of the nature of contemplation existed not only in India, from which it was transmitted to China, but also in the West. You read many treatises on Western mysticism, and there's still the feeling that getting into a deep, deep trance, sometimes called rapture. Again, the word rapture has undergone some transformations. We talk about rapture as people being beside themselves with pleasure. But to be rapt means to be taken away from the body. So also ecstasy, we now interpret as meaning in a state of high pleasure. But it means to be outside yourself, to stand outside yourself. Your soul has left you, it is with God. As Arabs say of all crazy people, be kind to them. They're not here, their soul is with God. But actually, if it can be true, as Buddhists say, that nirvana and samsara are one, and if it can be true, as Christians say, that the spirit can be made flesh, the word can be made flesh, then obviously the highest form of man is not sitting in a trance like a lump on a log, with a perfectly blank mind. Because if that were the highest state of consciousness, it would be an exclusive state of mind, a state of mind that shuts out life. And in that sense, it could not qualify for being what the Hindus call non-dualistic. They always speak of the highest reality as being not one, because one excludes many. Not nothing, because nothing excludes something. Not being, because being excludes non-being, and vice versa. And so they use this word non-dual to mean that which doesn't exclude anything, which, as it were, has no outside. As we say, space has no outside. You can only have outsides inside space. You can't have any outsides outside space. There is no outside space, even though space may be curved and finite. So, if you want to think, incidentally, of that curved space, go and take a look at a photograph in the Life, a book on mathematics, where there's a picture of a Klein bottle, which is a three-dimensional Möbius strip. A Möbius strip, you know, is a piece of paper that is twisted once and then joined, and it has only one side and only one edge. Now, a Klein bottle is a three-dimensional Möbius strip, and it only has one inside. It has no outside. You can say it has an inside and no outside, or it has an outside and no inside. It's a fabulous little trick. But there's something like that would be the nature of space, as that which does indeed transcend the opposites. Not quite. No, we'd have to do one extra move on a serpent to make it into a Klein bottle. You'd have to tuck its head through the side of its skin and make the aperture through the mouth continuous with the inside of the serpent towards the tail, you see. That's more or less what a Klein bottle is. So, what I'm getting to, I'm giving you something out of the general history of religions to show that what has been meant by the mystical state, the state of samadhi or awakening in certain traditions, is not this state of trance, but a state of consciousness in which you can perfectly well carry on your daily affairs. And of course, what is meant by a bodhisattva as the ideal type of Buddhist person is that he is not wrapped, that he is actively engaged in the life of the world, because he has gone beyond the illusion that nirvana is to be found away from everyday life. So what is then the point of meditation? Why meditate? Why do you have to crawl off into a hole, or go to a Zen monastery, or retire and be quiet, when this is only a withdrawal? Is there anything to be said for it? Well, meditation is, in that sense, as a practice, as a discipline, is a very curious problem. Because from one point of view it's a help, and from another point of view a hindrance. And I think we have to understand, first of all, that meditation exercises are medicinal rather than dietary. The same could be said of LSD. A medicine, not a diet. Something that is described in Zen as when you want to open a door, or summon someone to open the door for you, you pick up a brick and you knock on the door, but you don't carry the brick into the house. When you need a raft for crossing a stream, you cross the stream on the raft, but you leave the raft on the bank at the other side. You don't go carrying it around. But a lot of people, when they get into meditation, or they get into religion, or into any kind of exploration of this sort, turn the door into a revolving door and keep on going round and round and round and never get through. They say what a gas it is to be in this revolving door. So I think a good definition of a parasite is a person who goes through a revolving door on someone else's push. So there are all sorts of people in the religious racket who are going through revolving doors. And they're very bitter about people who walk right through and leave the door behind, because they say, well, you haven't paid enough respect. You must really understand religious one-upmanship. It's a tremendously important thing. And don't be caught out by this, because what happens is there's a little game going on, which I'm going to initiate you into. And it's played in Zen, which is it works like this. If you go to a teacher and ask for spiritual instruction, or even if you come to a seminar like this, you are, by doing that, confusing yourself, because you are looking for what you're asking for outside, as if someone else could give it to you, as if you didn't have it. So the teacher knows that as long as you do that, you haven't understood. But he doesn't just tell you to go away. Or we may sometimes just say, go away, I'm too busy. And in any case, I can't tell you anything. Well, people won't take that for an answer. They won't take no for an answer. And furthermore, if he just said, go away, they would just find some other teacher who would exploit them and maybe keep them as followers for years and acquire a great deal of money by so doing. But what he does is another thing. He tries to give them the put down, as if to say, you have a great long distance to go yet. Your attainment is not at all perfect. And they're always talking about other sects and other schools and saying, well, they haven't really got the point, you see? So that you keep losing faith in yourself. and feeling, my goodness, I haven't yet attained this thing. And that keeps you working. But all the time, you're being talked out. It's like someone who's a pickpocket and he's stolen your own watch and is selling it to you. But just so long as you can be talked out of yourself, you deserve to be. Now, you become very aware of this if you ever do momentarily slip into some sort of mystical experience. You become aware of this tremendous gamesmanship going on. And you see it as sort of continuous with all sorts of cosmic games that are going on, of creatures eating other creatures up, and the creatures that get eaten, of course, transform themselves into the creatures that eat them, and then in turn eat other creatures. And you see the whole hide-and-seek game going on, and then you realize very clearly that the state of development that you are in now is no better and no worse than anybody else's state. Because it's like space again. Which planet is in, or which star is in the best position? Well, it's all equal. They're all in the middle. Any one can be considered as the center one. Any point on a sphere is the center of the surface of the sphere. So, in the same way, everybody, in all his behavior, whatever he's doing, whether we call him from a certain point of view sick, or whether we call him healthy, whether we call him good or bad, neurotic, normal, psychotic, sane, all the manifestations are just like the leaves on the trees. And in each being, in a unique way, is, as Christians would say, manifesting the will of God. So, there really, from that point of view, you see, there is nothing to do to attain Buddhahood. Nothing at all. But you see, that's very difficult to understand, because a lot of people, when they hear that there's nothing to do, try to do nothing. And you can't. Because you are karma, and karma means action. You can't do nothing. But the thing you're looking for, or think you're looking for, is what you're doing, is what's called you. Only, of course, as we all know, we've got ourselves into the idea that oneself is so difficult to see. Because it's like, as I've often said, trying to bite your own teeth or look into your own eyes, and you can't find it. It's always behind. It's like your head is, from the optical point of view, a blank space. Neither light nor dark. It's right in the middle of everything. And so, one of the great tricks of gurus is to set people looking for their heads. There's a famous story of a king in India in ancient times called Yajnadatta. And one morning he woke up and reached out for his mirror and brought it over. No head. He was looking in the wrong side of the mirror. And you know, he was kind of bleary-eyed and had a hangover. So he summoned servants and said, "Gods, I've lost my head. Find it." And they said, "But Your Majesty, it's there on your shoulders." He said, "It is not. I can't see it in the mirror. Nobody can show me my head." So they were rushing all over the place, looking for the head. Now the trick to that is, of course, that you are perfectly well aware of your head, only not in a form in which you expect to be aware of it. You expect to be aware of your own head in the same way as you're aware of other people's heads. But that wouldn't be true of you, because you've got an inside view on your head. You have an outside view on other people's heads, because, of course, you're taking an inside point of view. But the way in which you are aware of your head is in terms of what you are seeing and hearing. Because all sights and all sounds are what the nerves inside your head are doing. That's how to be aware of one's head. You are aware, therefore, of yourself, the mysterious self that you have, in terms of experience. Because there isn't really any difference. But that always escapes people, you see. So perpetually, so long as you don't understand that, you can be talked into going on to all kinds of weird excursions. And just so long as you believe it, you're a sucker. You're hooked. And it takes a tremendous inner confidence and nerve finally to say, hey, don't pull that stunt on me anymore. I see through your game. And because gurus are very clever at putting you down, but they're just trying to see how strong you are, testing you out, see if they can hoodwink you. So long as they can, you see, they're going to go on doing it, because they're going to get you to the point where they can't do it to you anymore. Then they'll graduate. And so one of Rinzai's students, after he saw through it, said, well, there wasn't much in Rinzai's Buddhism after all. Of course there wasn't. He said boldly and straight out, my teaching is just like using an empty fist to deceive a child. You know, when you play games with a child and pretend you've got something here, the child goes into all kinds of tizzy to get you to open your hand and show what it is, and then there's nothing. Fooled. So you can be fooled, as long as you can be fooled. When you can't be fooled, you don't ask the question anymore, because it's all become clear. It's all become clear that there is no puzzle about this universe. What makes you think there are puzzles about this universe? Very simple reason. You're trying to explain it. And when you explain things, what do you mean by explanation? There are several meanings of explanation. There's really one basic meaning. But first of all, to be able to translate what is happening into terms of words or numbers. In other words, to describe. But a real explanation is not just a description. It's a description which enables us to control what we are describing. But didn't we see in the last session that to control the world is not really what we want to do? So that if all explanations have as their function enabling us to control things, then maybe an explanation isn't what we wanted. And furthermore, you can very simply see that what makes things complicated is explaining them. When somebody explains to you how a flower works, and he's a great botanist, and analyzes all the innards of a flower, and shows the channels, the fibers, the processes of reproduction, and so on that go on in it, everybody stands fascinated. Said, how complicated that is. How clever God must have been to create that flower, to have all that complexity going. It isn't complicated at all. It's only complicated when you start thinking about it. Because the vehicle of words is a very clumsy one. And when you try to talk about the processes of nature, what is complicated is not the processes of nature, but trying to put them into words. That's as complicated as trying to drink up the ocean with a fork.